Like many, I had the Milwaukee Bucks sweeping the Miami Heat. I also had the New York Knicks losing to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round of the playoffs. My analysis for those two series may have been right, but my predictions could not have been any more wrong. So today we've got ourselves a Knicks and Cavaliers fan, not Cavaliers fan, my fault, and a Miami Heat fan to recap Game 5 for all of the games, close to at least, because I don't think everybody watched each and every single one. But we're also going to talk about the NFL draft today, predicting where quarterbacks will go, and much more. How are you guys doing today on this amazing, highly awesome Thursday morning on April 27th? How are we feeling, guys?
Do you want to know how I'm feeling? Do you want to know how I'm feeling? This young guy, when he was a baby, this kid right here had seen nothing but failure over and over and over again. But what have I told you guys from the beginning of the season about this Knicks team? That there is direction, that something is new, something is brewing in this city. John, you told me Tom Thibodeau can't make adjustments. He can't change. He's one of the worst coaches in the NBA. Wrong. Second round trip now. We're hosting a playoff game. We're hosting game one in the Garden against the Miami Heat. I am pumped up. Straight out of New York City is the red hot Knicks. Can't wait. Can't wait to see you, Miami.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because Justin over here is jubilated. He's ecstatic, and I'm just the Miami Heat fan that I'm just the little old Miami Heat fan that was looked at as, oh, you're not supposed to be here. What are you doing here? Well,
Look at this guy
like
trying
I
to play victim.
no, I'm not playing victim. I'm speaking facts. These are facts. These are facts. Like John said from the beginning of the show, sweep, predicted sweep. Okay. Now we didn't sweep them, but we gentlemen sweep them 4-1. All right. Like I tweeted, I think after game 1 or game 2 or whatever it was. Listen, we here. That's it. We're here. Now we're here in round 2, and I can't wait to talk about it. But like I always say, everybody, if you're watching now, please give us a like, subscribe, share the stuff, comment with us, and let's get into episode 97, baby.
Let's start off with the Knicks. Not the Knicks. Sorry, I'm still a little bit fuzzled from last
What
night.
a tease!
Let's start off with the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks. If memory serves, there have only been 5 times in NBA history an 8th seed has beaten a 1 seed. But for the second time now in 3.5 years, the Miami Heat dethrone the 1 seeded Milwaukee Bucks. This time around as a team that barely made it into the playoffs. They had to beat the Chicago Bulls, fighting for their life in the play-in tournament just to get here. And now Jimmy Butler, game 4, 56 points. 2 assists, didn't matter because he's playing elite defense. Game 5 in that W, 42 points, still playing elite defense. The guy's 33 years old. And let me tell you guys something. For as much as this should be about Jimmy Butler carrying a Miami Heat team that at large didn't have that reliable second star in the series, I think this was an all-time choke job by the Milwaukee Bucks.
I wouldn't go that far, to be honest with you. I just think this was better Miami. If you looked at this Miami team and saw them straight up as an 8 seed, then I honestly believe something's wrong with you because, and I said it going into it when we were making our predictions for this, was I have too much respect for Jimmy Butler and Eric Spoelstra to believe that this team is just going to get walked over against anybody. And I also said if the Knicks were to match up with Miami in the first round, that's the one team I'd be scared of because you know what they bring in every single playoff series. They're tough, they're scrappy, and with Jimmy Butler as the face of your franchise, you know what kind of team you're getting. So I'm not going to say, oh, this is a complete disaster out of the Milwaukee Bucks. Yeah, they caught a tough break with Giannis in the back injury. Giannis played through it. He's a tough dude. But I think Miami just played as the better team. Jimmy Butler stepped up, like you said, 56 points, dropped 40 last night. There was no stopping the guy. And then that just happens. That's basketball. And Giannis said it. The season isn't a failure. They reached some goals. Obviously, they wish they could have won. Miami was the better team this series. Miami is not your average 8 seed. They're not. If the Hawks were playing Milwaukee, yeah, that's a sweep. But Milwaukee just caught a tough break running into Jimmy Butler and the Heatles.
Yeah, I mean, listen, to speak on it for the Bucks side of it real quick. I hear Giannis, and I honestly hearing him, and listening, I don't really, I kind of agree with him when I usually probably wouldn't. I'm kind of more of like that hard headed, I guess, old soul, old thinker. But when you look at it, if you just look at it in a vacuum and you just, say you don't even look at the context of the situation, you just look at 4-1, yeah, that looks like a failure. But when you broaden the picture a little bit and you zoom out and you look at the whole context, Giannis goes down in game 1. Now, was Miami looking good even when Giannis was on the court? Yeah, but it's still game 1. It's the biggest toss up of the series, and he goes down, and Miami's able to capitalize and take a 2-1 lead basically going into game 4, with Giannis coming back off the injury, and it was a bruised tailbone, I guess you want to say, a bruised back. And we all know how tough Giannis is. Giannis would be on the court if he could. So him coming back 2-1 down, and he had a pretty good game for game 4. He had a triple double, but Jimmy just had an all-time performance, and this is not hyperbole, one of the greatest playoff performances of all time if you look at all the context surrounding it. And then with Giannis coming back to game 5 in Milwaukee, listen, a lot of people expected Milwaukee to win game 5. I did. I thought they would handle business and we go back to South Beach in game 6, and that would be the deciding game. But business got taken care of in game 5. Jimmy, I was listening to Undisputed, and I think it was Undisputed that said this stat. Jimmy, it might have been Inside the NBA though. Jimmy, after 30-point games or 35-point plus games in the playoffs, I believe, is 1-6 and averages around like 20 points per game. And we all know this if you've watched Jimmy in the playoffs, especially as a member of the Heat. Usually after his explosion games, he comes down a little bit. He might have a lackluster performance. And I expected that. I did. I was like, all right, he's probably going to come down this game. But he exploded. 42 points, 8 boards. Didn't shoot well from 3, but listen, he carried this team. And I back to the Giannis, I don't see it as a complete failure because of the context of the situation, him being injured, him coming back, trying to fight. And listen, I know John might bring up the 10 for 23 free throws, and listen, I understand it. There's no arguing that you got to be better. You have to. And we know Giannis's biggest struggle has been shooting the ball outside of basically like 5 feet, right? That has been the telltale on Giannis in his entire career. But we have seen, let's not forget, and let's not be prisoners of the moments. We have seen this man in the biggest moments and the biggest stages perform and make his free throws. I think it was 19 of 21, if I'm not mistaken, in the finals against the Phoenix Suns. We've seen that. So let's not be prisoners of the moment. He had a bad game from the free throw line, but I fully expect Giannis Antetokounmpo to be back, and he'll be better. He knows how to take it. He is one of these players that might be 28 years old, but he is kind of like me. He's an old soul and he's an old mind. He thinks like the old heads. He's going to be back. He's going to be the hardest critic on himself, and I fully expect Giannis Antetokounmpo to come back with the full rage, and they're not going to be bounced in the first round next year. I can almost guarantee that.
Look, I do want to talk about the Miami Heat here, but I think for this Milwaukee team, what we saw was that, number one, Mike Budenholzer is a terrible playoff coach. First and foremost, I've never seen a choke job that bad. I had a gripe that was not putting Giannis on Jimmy, but the more I think about it, we have FLB in the stream. The more, what's up?
Oh, because I don't know if he said this to you, but I just got I guess it was in the post-press conference with Giannis. He wasn't thrilled with Coach Bud's decision of letting Drew guard Butler. He wanted Butler. And we've seen that before. I forget when it was, which playoff series it was, where Giannis wanted I think it was against Kawhi, if I'm not mistaken. Like, Bud kept Giannis off of him And all the reports were Giannis wanted to guard him. Like Giannis even said in the post, like, it's not my decision, it's the coach's decision. And Giannis is like that. He's a team player. He's not going to override. And that's I like that about Giannis, but also you're Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, take charge and be like, yeah, bud, I hear you. I'm the best. I'm the face of this franchise. I'm taking Jimmy Butler.
Let's keep it real. And now I'd like to introduce another Miami Heat fan. At this point, what would be the right description to incorporate FLB into the show? I don't know, but I do want to welcome him on in. YouTuber, NBA content creator. How you feeling?
A pseudo fourth guest at this point. My bad. The past 3 days have not been great on my voice. I went to game 5. My throat hurt after that shit. And then, I went to game 4 and my throat hurt after that shit. And this game, I don't know what just happened to me. Me and John were up for a good hour and 10 on stream talking about this. Genuinely still gobsmacked at what I just woke up and saw that I wasn't actually dreaming. Like, at what point were y'all at? Are we shitting on Bud again?
Yeah, where I was going with Bud, I think this was one of the worst coaching jobs I've ever seen. The guy lets Milwaukee, who had a 15-point lead, I think it was 8 minutes in this game, then a 10-point lead at 3 minutes, blow this by not calling a single timeout. And then make matters even more worse, at the end of the game, allowing the Miami Heat to tie at the end to overtime, he takes Brook Lopez out so they can lob it behind backdoor. And next thing you know, Miami's going to overtime, win it. I think there's a real case before we discuss the Heat in further detail. Number one, you fire Mike Budenholzer after a series like this. Because on the market, you've got a coach, Nick Nurse, who would do wonders with this Bucks team. We saw him 4 years ago now, go up against them, put up a wall. That was the first team to do it, and they shut Giannis down. I think Mike Budenholzer is a great regular season coach, but he's a guy that we all know has always held the Bucks back. And if it weren't for KD's foot being on the line 2 years ago, he would not be the Bucks coach right now. And I think he's the one holding the Bucks back in the fourth quarter, where their clutch offense looks like an absolute disaster. You have Chris Middleton, who was the most consistent perimeter creator in the series, not getting the ball in some possessions, which is ludicrous when he is your closer. But I also want to say this, man, this does affect Giannis big time when we're talking about the best player in the world, because you can't miss 13 foul shots in the game. You can't be a total non-threat outside 5 feet. I know Brandon, he went, 17 of 19 in game 6 versus the Suns 2 years ago in the finals. But for his career in the playoffs, Giannis shoots 62% at the foul line. And he's always gotten worse at the charity stripe. That matters when you also can't punish a team from 10 to 15 feet. Believe me, I don't want Giannis taking a 3-point jumper. I would hate to see him do that. But I would at least like to see the best player in the world make a 15-footer, a 12-footer every now and then, or teams are forcing him to do that.
See, here's one thing about Giannis, right? Why do we expect Giannis to be something he's not? Did we expect Shaq to make shots outside of 5 feet?
The problem with that, Brandon,
go ahead.
I understand that, Brandon. The problem with Giannis is the fact that him not having a jump shot is not the fact of him. Is it okay if he doesn't have a jump shot if he played like a traditional big? The fact is he's the one orchestrating the offense.
Yeah, but you understand that we are in a different era and that the bigs are becoming more like a Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah, but every single big has a jump shot that does that. Every single big that does. Joel Embiid, what other big? Bam has a 15-footer. Sabonis has a 15. Every single one of these bigs have something in their bag that Giannis does not. They all of those bigs, I'm not gonna lie, have a better feel with their back to the basket than Giannis does.
How many championships have those other bigs won?
Okay, I understand
but that's my point. My point is that Giannis, I don't think we need too much of him to change his game. Yeah, John, you're right. It'd be nice to see him back off and he could knock down a midi every now and then. But he has proven to us time and time again that his game works. Yeah, you're right. If it wasn't for a Kevin Durant foot on the line, maybe we're talking about him in a different light. But time in and time out, I mean, this guy's averaging 30 points a game. There's not much to critique about his game at all. I mean, yeah, you want your guys to be able to shoot free. You want your guys to shoot free throws. That's fine. Yes, but what he showed you, he can knock it down at the biggest moments. He did it in the NBA Finals, the biggest stage of them all. Sure, he let you down in this series. Okay. Like Brandon said, next year, you'll see a different version of this Milwaukee Bucks team.
Yeah, and
None of us will be shocked if they're the 1 seed, and they won't be bumped in the first round.
Yeah, and
The
it's
thing
not
is,
it's not like he let you down in this series. I think we need to remember he was out for two games, right?
I
It was
don't
2
like
games?
I don't
Yeah.
like those
2.5.
excuses. I don't like those excuses for him because again, the more you look at the 2021 finals, it's becoming more like KD, where 2012 is the anomaly, not the constant. Like the 2021 run is the 2021 run is so full of bullshit that it's gonna get constantly brought up that this
Agreed.
has a huge asterisk on it. You play the team that knocked you out in the bubble. You played them after they had a month and a half of rest. Jimmy's playing on an injury. Nobody else is 100%. You clean them out. And
I hear you. I hear you. It's just name me a champion that doesn't have something that you can bring up that there can be an
Good point.
asterisk. There's no
But
in
there's
any
too
sport
many.
too. In any
But-
sport,
Right.
you
But
need.
there's
This
too
is a
many.
game
But
of
there's too
bounces.
many with Giannis. It's not even. It's not. It's
Oh, come on, man.
Well,
Listen,
Brandon,
I'm a Tom Brady fan. I'm Patriots fan. I can speak to this. A couple of field goals don't go our way. We're talking a whole different situation. Like, I know I don't bring it up a lot, but sports is a lot about luck, a lot about the ball just bouncing your way. It's in football, a game of inches, in basketball, whatever you want to call it. But I understand you and I hear you guys and I'm listening to you guys. And I do agree, Giannis, you got to be better from the free throw line. You do. Would I like to see him develop a little bit of more consistent mid-range shot? Sure. But when you see Giannis, I think we can agree Giannis is still working on it. He's just not comfortable. It doesn't even look like he's comfortable when he's shooting, to be honest with you. He's not, It's not his game, really. So, and the fact that he's able to average 31, a career high this year, 31, and he's got no consistent jumper is pretty insane. That's why I bring up Shaq, because Shaq even brought up in Inside the NBA last night. There were plenty of games where he shot crap from the free throw line, and he had 30, 35, 40 points, and he left so many points on the table, and they lost the game, and he looked back and said, man, I could have been better. But we still revere Shaq. He's a top 10 player of all time. So I get it, and I hear you guys. I truly do. But I truly believe Giannis will be back, and I think we got to don't be a prisoner of the moment. Let's remember everything in totality about Giannis and also what happened in this series with the injury, him being down, him coming back. I don't hold this in such a high. I feel like this is okay, it happened. It's a black mark on your resume. Sure, I agree with that 100%. I'm not taking that away, but he'll be back. I fully expect that.
The thing is, Brent, is that this isn't the first time it's happened with Giannis. This is a consistent theme that's only not happened once. He did it against us, where he had those problems at the free throw line again, and he had those problems in the post, and even against us, that's when he was a worse playmaker. And that was the problem. We were doubling him, and he couldn't pass out of the post. Became a better pass. Oh shit, my bad. He became a better passer, and that helped him in 2021. But then you have a slur of injuries that help you out. 2022, you go against Jason Tatum again. He didn't ask to go on Jason Tatum. They let JT do all he wanted. He misses a bunch of free throws again. Game 7, he goes 8 for 20 against us. It wasn't just the free throws. Down the line, he couldn't make a decision. He couldn't get downhill. Bam locked him up for 3 for 12 in the second half and overtime, and he had 3 turnovers. It's not he literally just could not create any type of offense for himself. It's gonna become a consistent problem around you, especially when the Bucks don't have any more cap space. They don't have cap space. They don't have the draft. They don't have the draft compensation to build a better team around him. So you're stuck with Chris Middleton being Chris Middleton is a free agent, so you may not have him. So you're stuck with Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Brook Lopez being your other creators. So he's going to need to be better for them to be successful. This is going to be a consistent thing that pops up with him. This wall can't keep working. This is the 3rd time it's worked. We walled up every single time, and it worked again.
Romaine,
could this just be good Miami and bad Bucks?
But it's a good Miami. But how many times are we going to see a good team come up and do this again? Or we're going to be like, we're just a good team. You're going to have to beat good teams.
This is what we talk about in the playoffs for superstars. They're the best player in the world. Look, the Heat may have been a great 8th seed, but they still were not top 3 team in the Eastern Conference to most of us. And the reality here is, Romaine, I would have, to wrap up this Giannis topic, came at you and said, what about his defense? I didn't feel Giannis yesterday on defense, because all game long, for as much as Mike Budenholzer didn't want to switch him on the Jimmy Butler, the best player in the world switches on the Jimmy Butler. And I know he would get into foul trouble because Jimmy's going to bait him. But even still, if your teammate in Drew Holiday doesn't have the size or the energy to keep up around all these screens, you would at least want to see Giannis switch on to him a little bit. But he didn't switch on to him at all. But here's the other thing with Giannis. We talked about the free throws like that was the only issue. His third team missed free throws was not the only issue. In the last possession of overtime, the guy is playing hot potato. He does not want the ball to close the game. He literally throws out of bounds and says, you know what? I don't care if you get it, Chris Middleton. I just don't want the ball. And so he chucks it out of bounds. Chris Middleton's one of the best plays of the game, saving it. He gets to Drew Holiday to put him up 4. And then what happens after that? They give up a 3 to Gabe Vincent. And then it becomes a 1-point game. And then I think they missed 1 of 2 foul shots, and the Heat won it shortly then after. I think the issue with Giannis is that for as great as he was in the 2021 playoffs, Trae Young got hurt in the conference finals. 2 of the Nets' 3 stars got hurt in the second round. And against the Miami Heat, they just had the advantage in terms of energy levels. Against the Suns, Giannis was great. They couldn't match up, and he made his foul shots. Outside of that final series, Giannis has not been able to make his free throws, but that's not the only issue. And so, look, man, if you're going to lose a 2-point game or however many points it was when it was competitive, after missing 13 foul shots from your star, while he's consequently not closing the game, struggling to get you clutch buckets down the stretch in the half-court offense, and consequently not playing well defensively, I don't know what to tell you, but that's a pretty big issue.
Also, for me, one more is even on the defensive point, Giannis, it's becoming way too easy for coach to schematically pull him out of plays on defense. It's way too easy now. I don't know why. They did it again. The Celtics did it in Game 6 where I think Giannis was only on Jason Tatum when he had that 46, maybe 2 possessions out of that whole game. They schematically kept Giannis away from Jason Tatum the whole time, and you didn't ask for a switch, or he couldn't come over and help. Again, we watched some of the second half. The entire time in that last 3 minutes and in overtime, before he got fouled out, Bam was the ball handler. What Spo did was he made Bam the primary creator, force Giannis out on Kevin Love or anybody else that's on the shooter, and Jimmy just played one-on-one with either Drew Holiday or whoever else was coming up in that pick and roll. They ran that set every single time, and Giannis, since he's on a shooter, he can't come down and help in that paint. It's way too easy to schematically pull you out, and if that's the case, if I'm seeing that, at some point, I can't be a team player anymore. I'm going to have to tell Bud, hey, yo, those are the only 2 guys that are giving us problems. Put me on one of them.
I 1,000% agree with that point. Yeah, I said that. It's both sides. You know, Bud not doing it as a coach and realizing it, and Giannis as well too, being the superstar best player, not saying, "Listen, I'm going to guard this guy." And you don't have to guard him the entire game, but in the fourth quarter, in the money time, that is when the superstars guard the superstars. So yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think we can all agree, and I think this is we expect Giannis Giannis is still a top 5, top 3 player in the world today.
3, yeah.
I think the Bucks will be back. They'll be a top 3 seed next year. I don't expect them to get bounced in the first round. So yeah, I lamented on the facts that I said this a while ago, last year when we talked about the Bucks, that there's a chance that they could age out where, listen, the team in its totality is a worthy enough team to make it to a championship and win a championship, because we saw it. And you might bring up injuries and all that. That's cool and all. Chris Middleton was injured last year too, but we don't want to bring that up. This team is a championship caliber team because we saw it happen. So, but I also can say in the same breath, both can be true, where eventually Middleton and Holiday aren't going to be enough for you to have Giannis. Because if you look at other guys and their best players, their second best, Giannis is the disparity between Giannis and then Middleton or Holiday, whoever you think the second best player is, it's a major gap that you don't really see right now. So yeah, the Bucks will be back. It's not a major blow up deal, but yeah, the Bucks will be back.
So to highlight one player in Jimmy Butler that currently has the 3rd most 40-point games in the playoff. Jimmy just averaged 38 points on Brook Lopez, Drew Holiday, and Giannis, one of the 3 best.
And Middleton. Middleton's a good defender too.
Yeah, so.
He's coming off the injury, but he's still.
He didn't look like one versus Jimmy. I'll tell you that much.
Well, none of them did. None of them did. I'm just saying they're good defenders.
Really, when the playoffs come around, I don't know what it is, but what we saw coming into this game, Jimmy just morphs into a great shooter, and so I feel like he just fucks around in the playoffs sometimes in the regular season. He's like, you know what? I'm going to make sure on the scouting report you're not going to think I can shoot. That way in the playoffs I can shoot at a 36-37% clip, and I'm also going to take it at volume as well. And look, him in this game, as always, what the Heat were doing was pulling out Giannis. They're having Bam initiate, as you said, dribbling inside the arc, and then they're getting Jimmy going off ball as well. I don't know if I've seen an off ball player that isn't pronounced an elite shooter as good as Jimmy Butler. And I was telling Romaine yesterday, guys, I think Jimmy Butler is the best competitor I've ever seen. The will to win, the belief he inspires in his teammates, and the grit that he carries with him through every single playoff game is something I really only can see from LeBron James. But LeBron is 2 inches taller, 25 pounds more athletic, and surely more skilled. Jimmy Butler shouldn't be able to do this. And yet, for a third time in 4 years, he has already massively overachieved with the chance this year to go on a deep playoff run after everybody counted the Miami Heat out. Brandon, I was a little bit disrespectful to him. I said he wouldn't beat the Bucks. I said he would lose in 5 or 6 games. How do you feel, though, more, not about me, screw that. How do you feel about Jimmy Butler in this moment? And just, I think we got to appreciate this man a little bit more.
Yeah, we gotta acknowledge Jimmy Butler. But you say he's the most competitive you've seen. I would listen. I love Jimmy, but let's tamper. He's one of the most competitive people out there. I mean,
Top
you
five.
already brought LeBron up. If we're talking just basketball, okay, but I was thinking football as well. MJ's got to be up there. Dwayne Wade too. They're a bunch of guys. But listen, just to get, 98 points in the last 2 games is goddamn ridiculous. I forget what the stat was, but he's one of like 6 or 7 players to have 95 plus points in a 2-game span. MJ's got 8 of those. I think I read that stat right, which is fucking ridiculous. 112 points too is his highest in a 2-game span. That's God shit right there. But Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Buckets, whatever you want to call him, the man shows up when it's time. I've said this numerous times, nauseating at this point. The regular season, the playoffs are 2 completely different animals. So when people talk to me, and John has known this, and we've talked about the regular season basically this entire year now, he knows this. I absolutely despise when he brings up stuff about the regular season. And Justin brought up too about his Knicks and how they've beaten the Heat all 4 times or 3 times, whatever it was. And I just keep saying, y'all talking regular season. I bring up the AI clip. Y'all talking we talking regular season. We talking regular season. This is the playoffs. So I forget who said this quote. There's an 82-game player, and then there's a 16-game player. You see the difference? There's a regular season player, and then there's a playoff player. All right, James Harden,
both.
James Harden, regular season player. Jimmy Butler, playoff season player.
16-game player.
It's yeah. So the praise can go down. This man, his will to win, and I also John brought up the defense of the Bucks, right? But let's also remember Jimmy's doing this without his second best scorer in Tyler Hero. He is the offense. And
the second guy's on a bum hamstring. The second guy's on a bum hamstring.
And a booty that's a little bruised.
Bam had a screwed up hamstring right now.
Oh, he had the screwed hamstring, yeah. And you brought up the third most 40-point playoff games, I think, John. And Jimmy now has the most 40-point playoff games in Heat history. So yeah, there's not much more to say about Jimmy Butler. I don't. This is the last thing I'll say, and I'll let whoever wants to go next. If anybody was trying to discredit or disregard Jimmy's 56-point game or his playoff runs, playoff Jimmy, shame on you for disrespecting not only the Miami Heat, not only Jimmy Butler, and not only the brand of the NBA, but the sport of basketball. Because what you saw from this man throughout this series was God level shit. And that's not hyperbole. Like it really was. So if you did do that, take it, eat the crow, enjoy it, and just be in awe of greatness. All right. We're not play haters. We don't hate greatness here. I'm a greatness lover. You just got to appreciate it and acknowledge it. He is him. He is Himmy.
I love the memes where they talk about specific people, and they're like, if you give this guy an X-ray, you're gonna see that he has that dog in him. And Jimmy Butler, clear cut, has that dog in him, and we've always known that. But I don't know why people kind of act surprised that Jimmy Butler was even playing at this level, because his nickname is Jimmy Buckets. We always known him as a playoff superstar. He always steps up when it matters most. I mean, they were just in the finals a couple of years ago with him as the face of it. Jimmy Butler is that guy, and I think, and I've said it in the beginning of the show, going into this series, if you had Miami just getting their asses kicked, getting their sweat just wiped off the floor with them, then you just ain't paying attention to Jimmy Butler and what Eric Spoelstra could do. This Miami Heat team is always going to be gritty, always going to be tough, and they just overmatched the Milwaukee Bucks. They played tougher. So when you look at Jimmy Butler, I really do believe, forget underrated, I think we need to really start having a conversation of, is this guy a top 5 player in the NBA? I'll be honest with you, because I know his stats in the regular season, they may not blow you out the water. If he's averaging 21 points per game, you're so used to seeing LeBron average 28, Giannis average 30, now Embiid with the scoring title, all these guys averaging so many points. Jimmy doesn't need to do that. He knows he doesn't need to, because just like that, like a microwave, next thing you know, he's dropping 50 on your ass, and you're there watching him celebrate while you walk home. So I really think that we need to start having that conversation more, just because he's not that mainstream superstar. He's kind of like a Kawhi in the sense they're quiet. They don't need to do anything too crazy or too flashy, but when it matters most, you can rely on him. And I think Jimmy Butler has, even before this, I don't really think he needed to do this in my eyes, but at least now in everybody else's eyes, I think he put himself on a map that we have no choice but to talk about him.
Well said. And I think a lot of people will point out, well, Jimmy has no rings. How could he be a top 5 player? Is Joel Embiid a top 5 player? Because what has he done in the playoffs? Without Jimmy Butler, he's gone nowhere. In fact, he was the one letting Jimmy Butler down when he shot 37% the last time he was in the second round of the playoffs before 2022. But there's another element to this too. Would you rather have Jimmy Butler or Luka Doncic?
Jimmy.
I would rather have Luka for the
Luka, chill out.
in the regular season. But if we're talking playoffs, would I rather have Jimmy? That's a question to me, because two-way versatility and the type of leadership he instills into my core, well, it may rub off on some guys. Look, if that doesn't rub off in Minnesota, I don't know what to tell you.
And
If that
Luka
doesn't rub
has
off in
bad
Philly,
body
I think
language.
that's Philly's problem. If it rubs off on your team, it's because you're a good organization with the right type of pieces to instill a proper culture. I think Jimmy Butler at 33 has hit his peak right now. I think this is his peak, but I said that last year, and I also said that in 2020
If he goes any higher than this, that's just nuts. The only way he goes high is if he drops 62 in MSG. Please do that. Anyway,
in a losing effort, then it'll be fun.
Hey, we can talk about that later. We can put some money on this. We really
Listen,
can.
MJ dropped 63 against the Celtics.
Yeah.
And it's looked at as the greatest.
And this is his son. So.
But the top 5 player thing, Justin, I hear you and I love it, and I do think it is a talking point. Because listen, I'm looking at my list of top 10 players in the world right now, and I haven't updated it since in a while, to be honest with you.
It's a good time.
But yeah, well, I wait till after the season because I like to see everything in its totality.
Good.
But my top 5, everybody has rings.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I have Jokic over Jimmy. I have Jimmy at 7. To be honest with you, if let's say this Nuggets fail in round 2, can you really? I mean, Jokic doesn't have the rings either. Again, who do you rather want? This comes down to the point of, what do you value more? Do you value regular season more or playoffs more? For me, it's kind of, I don't want to speak in hyperbole, but I think 65% playoffs, or 70% playoffs, I take in that much totality, and then the rest of the regular season. Because for me, it's such a different animal, guys. Like, it really is so freaking different how different these guys play, how different the coaches coach, how much they get in the trenches. It's so different. So, yeah, if Jimmy is able to get to the finals, bring this team to the finals, he's definitely a top 5 player in the world. That's going to be cemented.
The thing is with Jimmy, I have him at 8, where I had Jason Tatum at 8, and I had to move him down because Jimmy is just. I have him at 8, and it's simply because the thing with Jimmy is whenever he smells blood in the water, especially when he feels like either your confidence is low or there's something across, either there's an injury or something across the floor, he's gonna go at you. So he keeps crippling you more. The problem with the other guys is that they'll stand up to you healthy versus healthy and still be able to pull on some masterful performances. The thing with Jimmy is that sometimes those performances are up and down. Last year and this year is when it's really become consistent for him on a certain basis. But you can also tell that Jimmy plays a brutal type of basketball where it's extremely tiring. You can tell in game 4, first quarter was enough to gas him. That 22 in that first was enough to gas him, and he still pulled through for the rest of the game. But he plays too much of a brutal style of basketball to be able to keep this up consistently, which is why I love that we close this out now instead of we have to play another game and then go play the Knicks all over again after playing the Bucks again. He needs the rest. So right now, I would have him at 8 because the other guys in that top spot are Luka, Joel Embiid, Steph, Giannis,
LeBron,
Jokic, and
KD.
LeBron.
And Bron, and Bron. Bron and KD. Yeah, those are the 7 guys.
I'm not going to dwell on the fact that you hesitated to put LeBron in your top 5. That really just angered me.
Oh, no. It wasn't that. I already stamped LeBron. I was thinking about the other person, and KD popped in my head.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, but
right now it's honestly a discussion, Jimmy Butler or LeBron. And that's no shot at Bron at 38. It's just like
I think Bron is just injured right now with that
exactly.
foot.
Yeah. And he's lost some of his, explosion. That's why we see the Lakers run their offense late to like Dennis Schroeder. And I'm saying to myself, when we're really talking who are the 5 best players in the world that I'd want to build around, number 1 to me right now, it might be Steph. He was number 2 for me. After this Giannis performance, this is a sort of year-to-year thing we're talking about, the top 2 or 3 guys, where we're always going to alter it slightly. I think Steph would be my number 1 currently.
It's a different discussion than best player in the world and who do I want to build around. Because when you're talking best player in the world, you don't take age into consideration. When you're talking build a franchise, you because I'm seeing, LeBron's 38, Steph's 35, Jimmy's 33. We understand that. Building around and best players, those are 2
right.
different.
So the best players in the NBA right now, number 3 for me, it might be Jokic, but we have to see how he performs in this playoff series.
Yep.
4 might be Devin Booker right now, but really I think Kevin Durant would be 4 for me. After that, 5, I'm like, it's Luka, Embiid, Tatum, Butler, Kawhi. Kawhi would be higher, but he's had too many injuries the last 3 years, and he just can't stay on the floor in the playoffs. So would I rather have him or Jimmy? I'd rather have Jimmy. Who's a better player? I'd rather have Kawhi. But part of being a better player is being available. And if Jimmy is a lot more often available, especially in the playoffs later on in the year, I think you can make a case Jimmy is a better player because availability does matter. I think that's something that people don't value, but I always have and I always will because, look, man, you can be an injury-prone star playing 45 to 55 games. Like Zion Williamson's a great example of this. He's a top 15 player when he's healthy, but when he's not on the floor, you just can't put him in that top 15 group because they have been too reliable. And consistency is truly everything in this group.
Fact.
One thing I hate how the media covers Jimmy in a sense is the main thing they push is the will to win and how he fits well with the Heat. And they always talk about like he does have the talent level of this and this. I'm like, nah, he does. Let's not act like that man isn't one of the most skilled players I've ever seen in my life. The level of shot making it takes to do some of the things he does is generally mind-numbing. The level of footwork down low to pivot on Brook Lopez twice for a layup is insane. The level of touch to hit some of these floaters in lane constantly is something players don't have. The level of perception to steal a ball, jump out of bounds behind the back, pass it behind one of the defenders to Max Strus or Kyle, whoever it was, to get on the fast break so it doesn't go out of bounds is next level perception for the ball. The way he's able to read passing lanes and get in to be a free safety and steal the ball is something I think only a handful of players have in this league. He genuinely has skills. I think he's definitely a top 5 shot maker because god damn. I think definitely you can count him as a top 5 perimeter defender in this game. He's definitely in the upper echelon parts of playmakers in this game. The talent level, I think the talent level is just too high for people to consistently put this as he has this will to win and other guys are more talented. No, I don't think D-Book, Damian Lillard, I don't think Jason Tatum, I don't think those guys are more talented than him at all. I think he's genuinely just, I wouldn't even say talent, I say skillful. He's just genuinely probably one of the most, if not a top 5 skilled player in this game right now with what he's been able to show the past 2 years.
Let me go, and then we can move it because I know Justin is probably getting antsy over there. Like, come on, let's talk about the damn Knicks for 40 minutes in. We'll get. I just want to say one more thing to respond to Darren Gordon Hill in the comments. So why are they the 8th seed? I'm going to say this to you as clearly as I can. Again, because obviously you have not listened over the last 40 minutes of the episode that I've said this probably multiple times. The regular season is a different animal. Don't calm me down. Don't calm me down because it's annoying when I have to repeat myself over and over again. The regular season is a different animal than the playoffs. How many times do we have to see a player who doesn't perform that well in the regular season and then steps it up in the playoffs? How many times do we have to see a player who is phenomenal in the regular season and then shrinks in the playoffs? Okay. Now we can move on to the Knicks.
I do think he's just pointing out that, they were the 8th seed, and a lot of these stars we look at like Jokic or maybe more so Steph. Steph can do it and have his team be a top 3 seed when healthy, but in the playoffs, he continues to play at that level. So I think that's all he was getting at. And also, well, I agree with you. Playoffs do matter a lot. The reality is that's a quarter or less of the season, whereas the regular season is the bulk of it. The regular season still does matter to the degree. You don't have to go crazy on my boy, but I do agree with you, though, on the ultimate point. Not everybody's built for the playoffs.
The thing with us being the 8th seed this year is not Jimmy had a pretty great year. He had one of his better years here, 23-6-5, and almost 2 steals. The problem is that not only does he troll for half the season, which pisses me off sometimes, but this season overall, we weren't the same team we were last year. We had the same rotation. We couldn't hit perimeter shots. Jimmy actually shot 35% from 3 this year, but we couldn't hit perimeter shots. And when we bought out Kevin Love, our defense tanked, and Jimmy played 64 games this season. But there's plenty of reasons as to why we were like with Steph when he was without Draymond and without Clay. There's reasons why they're the 8th seed, or there's a reason why they're in the play-in. There's a very much reason why the Heat were in the play-in. The second half of the season, our shooting picked up. We went from I think bottom of the league to about a little bit maybe close top 10 or a little bit outside the top 10.
You still finished at 34%.
Yeah, but
fourth last.
Yeah, we shot I think 38% in those last like 30 games, which just tells you how bad we were shooting before that. But the reason we're the 8th seed is definitely because the team built around him. If Jimmy last year he proved, hey, we win 53 games if we're hitting our perimeter shot. The way this team is built to work, we take a lot of threes, and it's built to work that way. And if we play that way and it actually works out, we win games. Of course, in playoff time when you need to will myself, but I can't do that. It's an 82-game season. I'm not going to sit here and will myself to every single one against the Detroit Pistons and Houston Rockets in the regular season when I don't freaking have to.
And to extend off that point, while the Heat couldn't make a shot for half the year, they were second to last in rebounding too. And the worst combination in the sport of basketball is having no shooting and no size. There's one thing, of course, that can demerit that. That's having Jimmy Butler in your team.
Yeah.
So, Justin, we waited 45 minutes damn near to talk about this topic. Look, I had the Cavs beating the Knicks in 6, maybe 7 games, and I learned something.
Yeah, I'll give you that one, bro. You got that. You were right. I got to stab back on this one. That was a shameful performance by the Cavs.
It was a shameful performance. I mean, they could not have played any worse. But there's also something I learned. It's that New York basketball, Justin. Oh, it's back. How are you feeling right now?
Bro, there's always one thing that I always say. So I told John, Romain, you weren't here for this, but I told John and Brandon that I was coaching a basketball team at my job. I'm not a basketball coach, but I know how to win a basketball game. And one thing that I told them is if we dominate the glass, we'll beat that ass. And that's exactly what the New York Knicks did. Dominate the glass, and we whipped their ass. Mitchell Robinson last night, 11 offensive rebounds, 18 total on the glass, just completely dominating, not turning the ball over like we did in game 2. I think we had 14 turnovers in the first half of game 2. The one game that we lost the whole time, we shot ourselves in the foot that game. The rest of the series, we played the brand of basketball that we've grown to watch this year. And it's watch the depth step up. Jalen Brunson be Jalen Brunson. Mitch be the one of the top tier rim protectors in this league. And you could probably argue that he's probably the best rim protector in this league. I'll go that far. But I'm telling you, before this early in the season, I remember telling you guys, man, can we have a conversation about the Knicks potentially making the Eastern Conference Finals? Like, it was rolling around New York radio, and I started to convince myself on this topic. And now, after beating the Cavs and Miami knocking off the Bucks, this all seems more likely because there wasn't one team in the Eastern Conference that the Knicks did not have success off of. We can beat anybody. Nobody was that scary in the Eastern Conference this time around. I'm just saying, the Knicks are making noise. This is a hell of a year to be a Knicks fan. I've said it for a long time that this is a team with direction, and you can see it. I love after game 2 and all the slander on RJ Barrett, he couples that with a good game 3, good game 4, good game 5. Steps up big. Julius Randle goes down, and we still Obi Toppin shows up. And Obi's making shots from 3. I think he's probably our best 3-point shooter in the playoffs so far, percentage-wise, or second best. But one thing that I really want to give credit to is Tibbs. In game 4, when Julius Randle was just not looking great at all, he pulls him instead of keeping him out on the floor. That was the biggest test. And that's one thing, it hit me right there in that moment. I was like, John, Tibbs made the adjustment that you said he couldn't. He made the adjustment.
He didn't pull up.
He pulled the guy that was the cancer on the floor at the moment, and the team started to roll. And I'm telling you, this Knicks team is special. We look different. There's no team that they're afraid of. Our depth is the best in the NBA. In the NBA, yep. Brandon, you can make that face. We have the best bench in the league. I believe it. We got the 6th man of the year. Isaiah Hartenstein's playing out of his mind. Quentin Grimes isn't back yet.
He didn't win.
He should have won. But keep going, Justin. Talk that shit about Obi Toppin, Justin. Justin, what are you saying about Obi Toppin? Because he's looking pretty good right now. No, what were you saying before?
In the beginning of the year,
that wasn't getting minutes last year. He is nice right now.
Obi Toppin has always been nice. He just hasn't had the minutes to actually show it.
Yeah, Tibbs doesn't trust young players at all.
And you know what? I think the Knicks have 3 starters coming off the bench. Justin, I don't disagree with you at all because Obi will be a starter on many teams, I think, in the right system. Isaiah Hartenstein's been one of the best backup bigs in the league. Look, man, Jared Allen was an all-star last season, and he had 4 rebounds in 36 minutes last night. In the first 3 minutes of action, Mitchell Robinson had 4 offensive rebounds. If you want to take it a step further, RJ Barrett, who's played, exceedingly well after he made a video talking about why they should bench him, has been getting where he's comfortable, his left hand downhill. And what Tom Thibodeau really preached to him is that, RJ, we can't have you settling for looks where you're not comfortable. You're not a spot-up shooter. I think another thing they've really tried to implement is more guard-on-guard screens. Now, guard-on-guard screens are not this new revelation. They've been around for many, many years. But what that's done, it's allowed RJ Barrett to get downhill as the screener, and it's tougher for a guard to defend that action because now if there's a little bit of miscommunication, now you're freeing up Jalen Brunson to get downhill, and consequently, RJ Barrett's getting downhill alongside him. So I like that slight adjustment by Tom Thibodeau, helping the Knicks offense not be atrocious, but enough to win this series. Because this Cavaliers series was not pretty by either side. I mean, both teams did not play up to their standard, especially the Cavs. But ultimately, the Knicks won close games. This series could have won to 7 games, and it could have won either way. But I felt like the Knicks were simply the more experienced, gritty, and deeper team. And their pace and offensive rebounding won them this series. I mean, that last night they had 17 offensive rebounds. Most teams don't average more than 8 or 9. And then the Cavaliers had 4. There you go. That's how you lose a series like that. Unbelievable. I can't get over how bad they looked. I cannot get over the fact they literally did not play Isaac Okoro to start the second quarter when he was 2 for 2. But you know what? They're done. They're eliminated for a reason. the Knicks are on the final 8.
You know, I love this one quote that Josh Hart, he was mic'd up for Game 4. So he goes up to Mitch later in the game. By this point, the Knicks were already rolling. And he tells Mitch, you grab regular rebounds, I grab the rebounds that break teams. And they did that. They definitely did.
The thing with the Knicks this season, especially against this Cavs team, I severely overlooked the fact that I wanted to look at the defense behind two guards that are cones on the defensive end. That is inexcusable at this point, because if you had a wing that you could keep on the floor consistently, that was producing offensively, that could guard him, that wouldn't be a problem. You don't, though. So now Jalen Brunson is over here having a party against freaking Cedi Osman. And then you look at the back, Evan Mobley in his second year, even though he get Defensive Player of the Year votes, man, did he get bullied. Even Julius Randle was shooting like ass this season. Oh, well, he always shoots like ass in the playoffs. But he was dominating. He was dominating the hell out of that man. And I've never seen somebody get their lunch money taken as much as Jared Allen. It's not even a huge size difference. I think he's bigger than Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell just
he's not. Well, I'm going off of ESPN.com. ESPN has Jared Allen at 6'9". Mitchell Robinson is a 7-footer.
Well,
yeah, I'm going off of ESPN.
I was going to say W
stat
site, but that Jared Allen's 6'11". I'm pretty confident. So I think
maybe with shoes. I don't know. Who knows? They lie all the time about their freaking height and weight.
The Cavs just didn't have an answer for anybody on defense, because the moment if you have a good perimeter defender on the floor, he can't produce offensively. And you throw him on Jalen Brunson, now RJ Barrett is going down on one of your guards because they can't guard him either. Neither of these teams shot well from three, but the Cavs really just couldn't hit a shot. Everything about the Cavs this season, they're the slowest team in the league, so they cherish every single offensive possession in the half court. And when you're missing threes like that, that's a problem, because you're not pushing the pace. You have a limited amount of possession. You need to take care of every single one, and they couldn't. You're the number two defense in the league, but it shows that. But this shows again, why you being a top defense but have schematic problems is always going to be a big issue. You don't have the versatility. You don't have the wing depth. It's just too much. It's too much to overlook sometimes. So I think now this is just a big black mark on the Cavs, in a sense that you are nowhere where we thought you actually were. And since you've given up so many picks for Donovan Mitchell, you don't Asa Okoro is your only real asset right now with how Jared Allen's playing. I don't know if I still want him on this team like this, but you don't really have much avenues to make this team better, because there's not many that the teams that have those type of wings that you would need not only cherish them to the point where you're not even going to see them unless you throw them a young player and like 5 picks. You don't have the draft capital anymore to even go look in the draft to go pick one of those guys up. So right now, I think even though you're really young, you have a lot of decisions to make on this roster. Like, is it worth it having 2 guards in the backcourt that can't defend, and sometimes are up and down offensively? Is Jared Allen really the 5 that you want? How can you mitigate this problem at your 3 spot?
Well, I'll speak on it. I mean, in terms of the Cavs, I think you hit it. They're a young team. Garland's 23. I don't know how old Mobley is. What is he, 21, 22? 21. Yeah, in terms of Mobley, the guy just needs to hit the weight room and eat more. And he's young, and he'll build into his NBA, his grown man body. Listen, he's like 215 right now. He can get up there. In terms of Allen, it's just he's grown. He's grown into his grown
like
man
a child.
Body. Yeah,
that was inexplicable. The things done to him.
Mitchell Robinson absolutely dominated 2 men, and those 2 guys should be embarrassed. But yeah, in terms of the Cavs, they're young. Garland's 23. He's going to take from this, and as long as he takes from this and learns from it and gets better. He's 23. He's so good right now. If he just continues to get better, they'll be fine. Mobley obviously taking the steps necessary. He's already great defensively. Just needs to add the size and weight to him, and it'll prove even more. And he won't be dominated like Mitchell against Mitchell Robinson and Julius, where he's just being treated like a child, like you guys said. And and he's got to develop an offensive game. That just comes with time. So I'm not too worried about the Cavs. They're kind of exactly where I I put them. I think before the season, I had them as because I had Milwaukee, Boston, Philly, and I had Miami as better teams than them, and then I had Cavs better than the Knicks. So they're right there with the Knicks, and they're the fifth best team in the East, fourth or fifth best team in the East. So yeah, they'll take as long as they take from this and learn from it, they should get better. But yeah, shout out to the Knicks. I didn't get to speak on it, but listen, I said it after game one, I believe it was when me and John talked. I said if the Cavs bench doesn't get their shit together, this could be a quick series. I think I said it could end in 5 for the Knicks. So with the Knicks, I said I underestimated their bench. They've got a I only said the best bench in the NBA. I think that's a little much, but they do have a top tier bench, especially left in the playoffs. The team competes. It's a Tibbs team. They compete hard. They hustle. They give the effort. They're overachievers, honestly. But round 2 is coming, and you're gonna have to face a team that matches that energy and that heart and that grit in Miami, and
that can play defense, that has the bodies to throw against.
We're gonna see.
I don't think what the thing with the Heat Knicks matchup is. Mitchell Robinson is a better rebounder than Bam. Bam isn't Jared Allen. He's not going to get treated like a child like that.
I can't wait for that matchup.
And you have the bodies to throw. Especially if Julius Randle isn't playing, or he isn't 100%, you have the bodies to throw at Jalen Brunson. Unlike the Knicks does. The whole thing with us and them is our 3-point shooting going to keep up? Because if we don't keep up, yes, that's going to be a very tough series, and we may lose that in 6 if our 3-point shooting doesn't keep up. If we're able to keep at a level where we're shooting 37, 38% from 3 consistently throughout the series, I can definitely see us taking that series in 6, simply because you have way too many bodies to throw at Jalen Brunson. It's not the same situation where you're going to out-rebound a team to that type of level. And Julius Randle really isn't 100%. And Jimmy Butler has been Jimmy Butler.
So but you act like we don't have an answer for everything that you guys have on offense.
That's what I'm saying. That's why this is bound to be a 6 or 7 game series. I know that. Either it's just depending on which ones which things go each team's way. If the Knicks are able to dominate the glass like they've been able to, they're taking the series. If the Heat can keep them off the glass and keep shooting not even to the way they're doing, but to the degree they were shooting the second half of the regular season, they can take it. It just matters which one goes each team's way.
I think the scariest thing is that a lot of people forget about this series with the Knicks versus the Cavs is Emmanuel Quickley on the offensive side was not what he was in the regular season. We didn't see that explosion that we're so used to watching. Also, Julius Randle was non-existent basically in the last 3 games of that series, and we won all 3. Also, Quentin Grimes was out. So we were basically out 2 starters and our 6th man of the year offensively not producing to the level that we're used to. So I don't believe the Knicks were even playing at their best level just yet.
What about
I honestly believe it's just, we crap on guys like Julius Randle for his playoff performances back in 2021 against the Hawks. And then, he had some ugly games in the series, but he also had a solid game 1. And before he got injured in game 5, he was having a solid game there too.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a larger sample size to pick from in round 2. If he's healthy and he's out there, then you guys can start picking him. But you never know. Julius Randle put up some points against Miami in the regular season. Who else did? RJ Barrett as well. RJ had a 30-piece on your Miami Heat. Emmanuel Quickley had big games against the
He's the one guy. RJ is the one guy I'm worried about.
Really?
The thing with Julius Randle in the playoffs, and tell me if I'm joking here, Ray. The problem with Julius Randle is that he does the inability to go right is so insane to me.
That's been a problem since 2021, yeah.
Exactly. And when you get into a 7 game, it's different than a Wednesday game in the regular season. When you go into a 7-game playoff series and you allow, especially a coach like Eric Spoelstra, and you have that big of a weakness, it's going to be a problem. It's the same thing with Sabonis. He can't go. The teams just play him right, and he consistently tries to go back left, and he either fumbles the ball, takes some awkward step back jumper, and it's going to come.
Funny how I said that Kings fans call me an idiot when I said that 2 months ago. It's funny how that works. And but here's the thing, Romain, RJ Barrett is no right hand either.
But the thing is with RJ is that he's way more physical. For some reason, he knows how to use his body and physicality a lot more than Julius Randle. Julius Randle is a tough shot maker. That's his game. RJ RJ is attacking from the perimeter, and since we already have our best defenders occupied, he was attacking on Tyler Hero, and this time he's going to be attacking on Max Strus. So it doesn't matter if he doesn't have a right hand. Those guys don't have the stature to keep up with him, so he's going to be able to get in the paint the way he normally does. And Bam isn't the uber rim protector. Bam is a pretty good rim protector, but he's not a crazy rim protector. He's more of a switchable perimeter-oriented post-up, be able to stay with you one-on-one and make the shot difficult. But RJ just always gives us a problem because the matchups aren't there. He's going to attack our smaller guards or smaller wings that we don't have, that aren't defensively great. But our better defender, Julius Randle, just has a problem that's so big sometimes that offensively you can't expect him to have really efficient performances unless he just gets insanely hot and he's hitting ridiculous shit.
I'll say it like this, Roman. When you're Superman, you look so good against, everybody else, right? But when you go up against Batman and he's got prep time and he brings that kryptonite out, you start to get a little exposed. And that's what the Knicks are. I listen, Spo is a genius. He is a top 3 head coach in this league, arguably the best head coach in this league. He's been here. He's done that. He's seen everything. He's coached a numerous bunch of players from the best of the best to, undrafted players. I think the most undrafted players playing in a playoff series today. So when you come in to a series against that type of team, experienced, #heat culture, which is a real thing, and you come in with these weaknesses that are so apparent and abhorrent, it's hard for me to picture that Spo and Jimmy and Bam and Kyle and all these guys aren't going to take advantage of that. And I'll say this. You guys did what you needed to do against the Cavs, and I said the Cavs were not going to be ready for MSG. Okay? I said that. They're a young team. It's their first kind of rodeo around here. We are not the Cleveland Cavaliers. We have people who have been there. We have done that. We will not be scared of this MSG moment. I want you to understand that. I know MSG is rocking. I know how they get. All right. But don't forget, we are not the Cavaliers. We are not inexperienced. We have been here. We have done that.
I think the MSG crowd's a little bit overrated.
Okay, John.
That's a little much. That's a little much. I wouldn't say that.
If in terms of actually affecting the Knicks' playoff fortunes, because we've seen them with home court before and knocked out multiple times in the playoffs. Not that the crowd isn't good; it's one of the best crowds in the league. But has it actually helped the Knicks a whole lot? I don't think so.
I think it's different this year because of their drought and because of how the Knicks fans have felt over that. They're so, especially they just won the damn series since what, 2012, Justin, or before that?
10 years since we. 10 years.
So the energy. It's also about. Now they're feeding the Knicks fans. The Knicks fans feel fed now.
They had more energy in 2021 from the fans, I would say.
Okay, but I'm just saying. I feel like they're re-energized now, and they feel it. Like, I mean, you can't look at the Cleveland. You can't look at Game 3 and Game 4 and tell me that MSG did not have a reason for they did not win.
Obviously, not going to disagree with you on that point. I just wanted to make that note. I don't think MSG is the best home court advantage.
No, I didn't say the best. I mean, the freaking Warriors is still, I think, the top tier.
I think people make it out to be up on that level when it's not.
Also, one more thing. The Knicks fans like to make a villain out of certain players. Jimmy's not the person you want to do that with. Don't make the same mistake y'all made with Trey. Don't do that. Don't do that to the wrong person again.
Or Reggie.
Yeah, we'll see. But you know what? I'll say all in all before we wrap this up on the Knicks portion. This is going to be a hell of a series. I have nothing but respect for the Miami Heat. Just because I say this is the matchup that I prefer doesn't mean that I respect them any less. I just think on paper, both teams stack up very well against each other. I expected Knicks Cavs to go 7. I'm going to say the same thing about Knicks Miami. I'll take my Knicks in 7.
Real quick, my prediction for that series is Heat in 6. It's going to be a close series, but I think what it really comes down to is that the Knicks have a lot more exploitable weaknesses. Look, Julius Randle re-aggravating that left ankle injury. He didn't look good for most of that series. He had 2 good quarters, 2 good halves, I should say, out of 10 total. The rest of the series, he was god-awful. And defensively, even, he was killing them. So I think for as good as this Knicks bench has been, if Jalen Brunson's your only reliable perimeter creator, I think you're going to be outmatched in this series. And the other part of it, too, is that, look, Jimmy Butler will be the best player on the floor, and I think just about every single game. For as good as Jalen Brunson has been, it wasn't a high bar to get
levels to this.
I mean, let's be honest here. In round one, the Knicks had a C effort. On the glass, they had an A effort. But let me actually reword that. They had an A effort, but in the Knicks versus Cavs series, I feel like for the Knicks, they performed at a C level. They didn't make shots. Defensively, they did a stout job rebounding, but all things considered, they didn't play particularly well in that series.
How long do you think that persists, though, John?
I mean, it's a
for as
C
long as
plus team.
Julius Randle's hurt and not performing in the playoffs, Justin, I think that could be more
No,
of a trend
but
here.
I'm saying more so the shots eventually will start falling. You know, we didn't shoot well
Don't
at
say
all.
that. Don't say that. I said that all last year, and I said that all last playoffs, and we consistently shot 33% from three the entire playoffs up until Boston. Those shots sometimes don't start falling. Sometimes you're gonna find another way to do it.
And we're also well aware the Knicks are not seeing the space of the floor particularly well. I say that because, the Heat had I think, an A-level performance versus the Bucks. They played both Jimmy and the role players flat out phenomenal, right? Mm-hmm. I felt like the Bucks were a much better test for the Heat. Like the Cavaliers, legitimately, they had an F. If I had to grade the Cavaliers' first-round performance, I am giving it an F, maybe a G. It was that dog shit. With the Knicks, they're solid, though. And so I want to point that out now. I know Knicks fans winning their second playoff series in 2022 or 22 years should be absolutely hyped right now. I would be too. But I look at that type of matchup versus Bam, who I think you're saying did suffer that hamstring injury last night. Ask him myself.
No, not last night. He suffered it way earlier. That's why he's been so bad this
series. Re-aggravated a little bit. I think that's the worst type of matchup for this Knicks team. Bam on Julius Randle, Jimmy Butler, and Caleb Martin switching onto their guards. I think this Miami team is the right type of size. And if KL's popping 5 threes like he did last night, which is a very real possibility, all of a sudden the Miami Heat has some legitimate floor spacing to open up the entire one-way for Jimmy B. Jimmy Buckets. Yeah. Don't get it twisted. He has a case of being a top 5 player at his absolute best. And this is where you want your player at his.
Another problem is that don't be surprised if Jalen Brunson gets that Trae Young treatment. Because if Julius Randle's not playing, you don't have another primary creator. You're gonna have to either it's gonna be pretty. He's gonna see a ton of double teams. He's gonna see a ton of traps because he's the only one that can really hurt you consistently with the ball in his hands until you get to the bench with Emmanuel quickly. But don't be surprised if you see the same level of trapping, double teaming, and forcing anybody else but him to beat you. And even then, even when you do that, the Heat rotate really well to the point where they're trapping you, and then you have to hit a perimeter shot because you're not getting a layup in the paint after we double you. So this is gonna get murky as hell. This is gonna be a chess match, and it's gonna murky as hell. And in a chess match, I'm not taking anybody over Eric Spoelstra. Well, I'm not gonna say anybody, but there's only very few people I'm taking over Eric Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler in a chess match.
I gotta say, listen.
So what do you have, Romain? What's your series result?
Heat and six because I respect, even though again there's certain teams I do not like. Knicks is the one of them. I respect them enough. I respect them enough this season to realize the level they're playing, where Jalen Brunson's playing, the level. It's not even the level of grit they played with in that Cavs series was definitely commendable too. Because there's certain points in some of those games they could have folded. There's certain points in the point where Julius Randle was shooting so bad. He tried to affect the game on other levels. He played well defensively. He crashed the glass. He was passing pretty well sometimes too. It's just at some point you just can't ignore some of the schematic problems, and it just depends. It just really depends on a lot of things going our way. And I just trust the things to go our way than they do your way in the series. But if the Knicks find a way to pull this out in 6 or 7 too, I wouldn't be entirely surprised.
No, that's fair.
What would it take for the Knicks to win this series versus Miami?
Dominate the glass. Julius Randle has to get his head out of his ass.
That's a great point.
I love the run.
I like that. So, everybody can't wait. 1 p.m. Sunday, Eastern time, Miami in MSG. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, it's going to be a real problem in the class because the Heat this year are second last in rebounding and have no size.
Really. Let's talk about the next game. Keep talking regular season.
We don't have to spend much time on the Lakers.
Brandon, you didn't pick your result.
We didn't get our rebounding. The Bucks are one of the better rebounding teams. We didn't get our rebounding that bad. Sometimes it just takes will.
Right now, I'll make my pick on Sunday.
No. Come on. Make it now. Everybody
make it now.
Predictions are part of the fun.
I got 2 Miami Heat fans in here. Make your pick now.
He has Heat in 6. You can mark him up for Heat in 6. He has Heat in 6.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll make the prediction for Brent if he's not going to make it.
Yeah, he got him in
technically
6.
said.
Yeah, tough, man.
All right.
Yeah.
We don't have to spend much time on the Lakers Grizzlies. I've really just felt like, dude, Dylan Brooks has to be benched ASAP. Luke Kennard has played so much better, and they desperately need floor spacing. And I've never felt worse about a team, and I say this often, that won a game than I did last night for the Grizzlies, because like they took care of business versus the Lakers at home. But if Dylan Brooks continues to start for this Grizzlies team, I'm promising you they're losing in game 6 because they cannot afford to have this man. Let me read off to you the shooting splits.
Oh my
It's not just the shooting splits. It's the fact he's not being guarded. Nobody is covering him, and he's still shooting 3 of 15, 2 of 10 from 3 in game 5, 4 of 11 in game 4, 3 of 13 in game 3, 5 of 14 in game 2,
And
and
uses
5
a
of 13 in
traffic
game
cone
1.
on defense.
Get ready to learn Chinese, buddy, because let me tell you something. Dylan Brooks should not be starting on any playoff team. And for as long as he does, my Memphis Grizzlies, the team that said was a loser when they didn't acquire Kevin Durant, will always be a pretender, not because of the rest of the players in the roster, but because you can tolerate Dylan Brooks' trash ass taking 11, 13, 15, 14 shots per game. That is a real issue in the playoffs, and that was really the only thing I want to talk about in that Lakers-Grizzlies series.
Yeah, weren't you the guy saying, these guys were contenders, but not even?
I was.
But,
I did say the Grizzlies were
and
contenders.
you've reevaluated seeing what I was trying to tell you about this Lakers team. This is not your grandpa's 7th seed or 8th seed, whatever the hell they are. Yeah, there's not much to speak on this series. Listen, Memphis did what they needed to do in game 5. They took care of business at home. I think all of us are probably picking the Lakers to win in 6, win back home in LA.
Handedly.
Listen, LeBron himself said he played like shit, and he did. He said, I will play better in game 6, and I expect LeBron to play better in game 6. One thing is he's got to lower those 3-point attempts. In this series, LeBron James is 6 for 36 from 3. That is 17%. That's terrible. He's got to lower. Go ahead, John. You want to say something?
That's his most aggressive form of scoring. That's the most consistent form of his aggression currently, though.
His 3-point, yeah, because he's become more of a. I understand the legs, a lot of miles on it. He can't drive to the hole as
It's
consistently.
not even the legs
as
that have a
he
miles
would.
on it. He doesn't have the burst anymore. He can't even get past Xavier Tillman. Like it's
It's.
I think
he can only summons it up every once in a while where he looks like the old LeBron. But I understand what you're saying. It's just for me, it's being smarter about when you're taking those shots. Listen. He hasn't been. Those shots have not been falling at all. It's just. I expect to take care of business in 6. I would love to see Darvin Ham play Mo Bamba just at least 10 minutes per game. And yeah, I not much more to speak about. I'm just,
Can I have a
hoping-
little rant about Darvin Ham for a second?
Mhm.
That has to be one of the most shameful coaching performances I've ever, especially in this series. They should not be up 3-2 with the way he's been coaching this series.
What else
Sometimes
do you expect from a Mike Budenholzer?
my Budenholzer tree. I understand that, but it's just dumb. He consistently plays that Dennis Schroeder, Troy Brown, Malik Beasley 3-guard lineup that consistently gets baked. Troy Brown can't hit a shot. Malik can't hit a shot. Dennis has been great, but you don't want him on the floor as those two guys at the same time. He can destroy the size every single time. And he consistently plays it with Jaren Jackson Jr. on the floor. I don't know why he does it. This game.
Eventually, Lonnie Walker was head scratching to me too with his speed, athleticism, and his shooting.
Exactly.
I was head scratching.
You have on the offensive of the ball, you guys were coming back. You guys were down, I think, double digits, roaring back behind a couple threes from D'Lo. Anthony Davis was playing great. You were down by 1, 74-76. You take Anthony Davis out. Memphis goes on on some insane run, like 18-2 or something like that run, buries you. And at no point in that run did you decide, maybe I should put back Anthony Davis in this game to actually put a handle on this. This game was getting away from you so fast after you fought your way back in it, and you still made no adjustments at the end of the day. Rui Hachimura was a revelation for this team in those first 3 games. He now ends the last 3 games with not even double-digit minutes in the first half at all. And not even closing some of these games. It's a problem. It's becoming such a problem where this team's been more than talented enough to end this Memphis team and probably in 5 games, and you put extra miles on LeBron's body for no freaking reason.
Yeah,
It's
I
just-
mean, Rui's
think,
been one of their 4 best players, dude. He should be not starting, but he should be closing every single game, playing at least 30 minutes, not 26 at minimum.
This series should have been over in 5. I mean, I actually picked Memphis to win this series in 6, but being that the Lakers decided to actually step up, now they have control of this series. But I'll be honest with you, after last night, I think the inconsistent Lakers reared their ugly head, and I think this is going 7. I'll take the Lakers in 7, but like you said, Romain, you hit it. Adding those extra miles on LeBron when you could have this guy resting right now to have him preparing for a round 2. I think this one is a blow to the Lakers. Ultimately, they win in 7, but for rest purposes, this isn't ideally what you want.
What's also not ideal is that Luke Kennard's hurt with a shoulder injury. And so now we might be forced to watch Dylan Brooks jack up one jumper after another. Daniel sends in, how can Memphis allow Dylan Brooks to shoot 10 threes a game? Well, and you got no one else to take the shots.
He's open. Everybody else is covered. Somebody's double teamed. He's the guy open.
He's not open.
Not even that.
He's left wide open.
But you watch these games, LeBron is playing off of him. LeBron is in the paint, either waiting for rebounds, helping on drives. Dylan literally seeing an entire side of the floor to his freaking self.
So it's putting target practice for an NBA player.
Bro, I feel like his confidence has to be such in the dirt because the moment he touches the paint, Anthony Davis, for some reason, wants to spike his shot even harder. Like, it's not even a regular he's taking like joy in sending your shit to the 5th row. And then you
multiple backward Wilsons.
You talk all this shit about LeBron and for how bad offensively LeBron's been this series. He's only had success on you. You're the only one he's been able to do this. Xavier Tillman's playing great defense.
Yeah,
he's killing you. So the fact that you're a 0 offensively, you hang your hat on defense. You've been talking all that shit. 0 defensively. You've been doing this clown bit, and the moment it gets hard for you, you abandon it, which is shameful in every single way possible. If you're gonna be a clown, at least be 100% be the clown.
If you're gonna be a clown, double down.
No, first off, like if you're gonna, he's taking on the role of the heel, the villain, and it's like the excuse he's making now. People are making me out to be this guy. No, man, this is like first off, people are talk more about what you say than what you actually do on the court, and that's because you talk and you don't back it up. So don't play this victim card now. All of a sudden, oh, woe is me. People are coming at me, blah, blah, blah. What'd you expect when you come at LeBron James and you say, oh, he's old. Oh, I don't respect anybody until they drop 40. What'd you expect when you were going into game 3 in LA? Yeah, every time you touch the ball, you're going to get booed. This is playoff atmosphere. I hate, like, listen, I love players that do that. I love like a Pat Bev and except all these other guys that are like that. But own it, man. But you would never see Pat Bev be playing victim role. He'd be like, yeah, I did it. And what?
After losing, he pushed Chris Paul. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like this is like, if you're gonna be about it, then be about it. Don't back up and be like, and Romain it's you. You can't guard it. Oh, I'm gonna make him go. What do you say? I'm make him go right or make him go left?
He can't go left. He said in January.
And then LeBron goes left to ice the game on you.
LeBron is ambidextrous, you idiot. I don't know if you didn't know that, but listen, man, the Grizzlies, I was surprised. Listen, I messaged in the chat while I was gone for a second, Justin saying Grizzlies, LA in 7. I don't know how you see Grizzlies winning game 6 and then LA winning back in Memphis. I would think you would just LA.
It's a long flight.
Yeah.
Both ways.
That's a little too much for me. LA is going to take care of business in 6. I don't see them going back to Memphis. That'd be too much.
Real talk, if Dylan Brooks is shooting the basketball, this series will end in 6 games. And I can't believe I know he's given the green light. I can't believe Dylan Brooks has the audacity.
Who gave him that green light? Take it away.
Let me put it this way. He's averaging 10 points while taking 13 shots per game. This is one of the worst playoff performances in recent memory. And it's just inexplicable that Taylor Jenkins still hasn't benched his ass altogether because he shouldn't even be on the floor. I think he should legitimately get into DMPs because at least a David Roddy can play make. Asante Aldama can space it and get some rebounds. He doesn't get on the glass. He averages like 2 rebounds per game. And this series, let me guess, averaging 4 at max. He's averaging 4 rebounds. Oh, he's averaging 4.8 while being the most destructive offensive player in the league. So, yeah, man, I mean, this is coming from a Grizzlies fan. He's one of the worst rotation players I've ever seen on that side.
Stop with the Grizzlies fan thing.
One thing is my favorite thing about this series is every single time either LeBron scores or something bad happens to the Grizzlies, they zoom in on Dylan Brooks' face every single time, and he just looks lost. And it's just hilarious every single time they do it.
Well, talking about another series, the last series,
The
Warriors
last
in
series,
6, guys.
Oh,
Warriors in 6, right?
I
Warriors
feel
in
so
6.
bad for
We can all agree.
Sacramento, bro.
Warriors in 6. I'm
That's one of
so
the worst games.
ecstatic. So ecstatic. Thank you.
That's one of the
Warriors,
worst
for taking
30-point performances I've ever seen from Steph, and they still find a way to pull this shit out.
Well, that was
Shout out
supposed
to
to be.
Clay. Shout out to Clay. I'm not gonna lie.
That's what I was gonna say. That was going to be a Clay game before then the foul troubles happened and he couldn't get back into it. But I mean, it looked like he was about to go for 7 or 8 threes that game, and I think the foul trouble really saved the Sacramento Kings from being that much worse. But
that lead would have quickly extended if he was on the floor in the third frame.
Yeah, Warriors winning that game has kind of cemented it to me. It's Warriors are going back to Golden State, and they're going to finish the job in 6.
I will say this: if the Kings find a way to pull,
no. The pixie dust is one off. The pixie dust is one off. The Cinderella story is over.
It's not that. It's if the Kings are really a young team that's about to really start cementing themselves as one of the main candidates in contending. This is one of those moments where you have to pull it and show that you have at least a certain level of grit. You may not have the experience the Golden State has. So let's say you lose in 7. That's cool. But if you're able to show some type of grit and not lose 3 in a row, then yeah, at that point, I'm going to be like, okay, you may have lost, but at least I know that you still have some heart left in you. There's no reason you should win 2 games at home and you win both first games at home miraculously by you. Mind. And another thing, this is another example of sometimes the shooting just never is going to click. If you start out bad, something's just gonna stay that way. You're gonna find another way to win. They have not shot well. They've shot well from 3 in 1 game this entire series. A top 5 3-point shooting team in the entire regular season shot 10 for 34 last night on their own home court. De'Aaron Fox 3 for 10. Kevin Huerter 1 for 4.
He made one.
Like you know, like Kevin Huerter hasn't really been on this entire series.
He made one though.
He's never been on ever. He has 1 game that was well in the playoffs. That's it.
So,
he's like Julius Randle.
Well, Randle doesn't
need for that. But I'll be honest with you. I had the Kings initially winning this series, but you can see the experience of Golden State just shows up game in and game out. The Kings really missed a golden opportunity when Draymond was out, and they couldn't seize that. So I think this series is all but over now. I think the Golden State Warriors are now going to make a push now for another NBA Finals run.
Look,
like Brandon, you're right, buddy.
Game 3 decided the Kings-Warriors series. The Kings need to get that game, and they would have won this if they did. Because they lost that, and they let Draymond come back into it off the bench, Aaron, that single-handedly saved the Warriors dynasty for now. We'll see if they can extend this in the second and third rounds of the playoffs, but I really just think for the Kings, they're shooting 30% from the field, and Domantas Sabonis, while he had 20 and 15 last night, you're not getting that same impact, that same flow that he brought to the offense in the regular season. That's played a role in Kevin Huerter, who's shooting a whopping,
percent. He made one.
16% from 3. He's made some floaters, and that's really just kind of where it ends for him.
Floaters, backdoor cuts, that's it.
Also, some blocks, too. He's gotten 5 blocks, too. I'm impressed with his rotations and stuff defensively. But outside of those 2 things, he's really been
with how physical the rest have been calling this series, he better have some blocks because you can slap anybody in this series and you're not getting a call sometimes. Like, this shit's been physical. They're letting them play. And this is another thing. I've been hearing Sabonis over Bam all regular. What about this shit now? And guess what? At least Bam, when he's on the floor, he has an effect on the game defensively. Even when his shot's not falling, Sabonis can't do anything with his if it's not his left hand, and he's a
traffic cone. Draymond his first 20-point game since 2019.
By the way, they don't do that to Bam. What they do to Sabonis, which is back all the way off and basically dare him to make a mid-range jumper.
Yeah, because Bam's going to knock that shit down.
That's what I'm saying. That's another point in Bam being a better player. Like they would never do that to Bam Adebayo. But I can't wait for round 2. I can't wait for round 2.
Maybe a little bit overrated too. That boy may not be that boy may not be the passer we think he is, because I'm looking at some of the passes Bam made last night. I've never seen Sabonis make any one of those. Like that one shovel pass, that wraparound pass to Jimmy after he's going down on Brook Lopez. I've never seen Domantas Sabonis make that read and make that pass to anyone before. A lot of it is just a lot of DHO actions and backdoor cuts that I'm not going to say are easy to pick off, but when you have a certain level, he's a very good playmaker, but when you have a certain skill set, you have this many shooters and the offense runs the way it does, you're going to pick up a lot of assists.
Whose cat's going crazy in the back? Is that
Sorry,
you, Brandon?
mine.
No,
Let me let her out.
Yo,
That's not bad.
I've been dying.
that's
this
why I
whole
was going
time.
like this. I was going like this, like the whole like my cat's not. He's right there. I see him. But yeah, I can't. I just really. I told John this. I'm really hoping for a Warriors Lakers round 2, and it looks like we are looking to get that. But yeah, let's. I guess you want to preview Nuggets Suns real quick, or
you want to save that preview and
We
then
can-
first we kind of already did preview Knicks Heat though. I felt like right.
yeah, we can't. Well, we can't save it till Sunday because they play Saturday. So I mean, if you want to talk about it just real
let's
quick.
preview Suns Nuggets. Look, as a Nuggets fan, my prediction is them going to the
Bro,
finals.
this guy just
Oh
said.
my
Memphis fan.
God.
Like 5 minutes ago.
Jesus
I
Christ.
Stop.
You're a
I'm-
slut.
No.
I am a Nikola Jokic and Ja Morant. fan.
And don't
Those are
say I'm a Denver fan or a Memphis fan. Just
All
say
right,
as
so
a
who
Jokic
cares?
fan. Okay,
I'm not an
I
NBA,
thought you were a
I'm not
Nets
an
fan,
NBA
John.
team fan.
That's what
I
I'm
have
saying,
my
Nets
favorite
fan
player.
too.
I thought you were a Nets fan. Address it now. We're live.
Yeah,
Address
but
it now.
they haven't gone anywhere in the playoffs.
So
Justin,
you
in my
only
life.
root for them when they win? That's terrible.
so messed up.
Terrible.
That is so
terrible.
bad.
That's
Shame
so
on you.
crazy.
Shame
No,
on
when the
you.
playoffs come around, buddy, they're not in the playoffs. So I don't
you-
root for
They
a
were
team
just
that's
in
not
the
in it.
playoffs. They got
You know
swept.
what I do?
They're in the playoffs.
You know what I've done my whole life
but
because
So in
the
the
Knicks are
playoffs,
rarely
the rest
ever
of
in the
series,
playoffs.
the next 3, I'm going to root for another team just to have something
You
to root
can
for.
no,
you know
but
what I mean?
John, you can
But that
root
doesn't
for
make
another
you a
team.
fan.
That
Yeah,
doesn't-
that's what I'm saying. You can root for another team.
Fraud.
I can't say you're a
You're a
fan.
fraud. You're a fraud.
No. But I
You're
also like the
fraud.
fan bases too because they're very supportive. That's the other part of it. So that's why I root for the Grizzlies and the Nuggets. But here's the thing. As a Nuggets fan, I have a weird type of feeling going into this Suns series because look, Devin Booker continues to get better and better. We had a discussion about how good he really was. Let me tell you something. He's the best player in the Western Conference right now. And he's played so well that in the closing minutes of games, they don't even need to involve Kevin Durant in the actions.
Yeah,
He is
let
literally
Bradley
the number
Beal
2
do
currently
this.
on this Suns team. And if you are going to scoff at that, I'm going to ask you, what Clippers series have you been watching? Because Devin Booker has gotten to a point where I don't know if there's a hole in his game. And there's a lot of shooting
There
guards in the
isn't.
league that can light up from mid-range. But his
Yeah.
drive game, his playmaking, and defense, which we saw in game 1, lockdown, have all taken another step forward. I think we're getting to a point in Book where, man, he's
He's
a top
pop-
12, top 10 player,
Let me
and there's
talk
not
to you.
much to spin
He's
that.
popping.
Let me talk
He's
to you.
popping his shit right now.
Let me talk to you. Let me talk to you.
Yes.
Let me talk to you.
He's doing it in the playoffs.
What clip have you not been watching the Clippers series? What are you loco? Have you been watching the Clippers series? I'm sorry.
I
Does that
know where
Clippers
he's going
team have
with
Kawhi
this.
and Paul George on their court, or no? We're just gonna act
No.
like they're fully healthy and ready to go, right?
Right.
Like, okay, that's great. Does he
Okay.
not have a 7-foot monster standing next to him?
Well, he's actually staying in the corner. And
It doesn't
not
matter.
involved in the actions.
Semantics. My
Well,
point
in the
stands.
actual
I'm not
game,
gonna-
I just
I'm
hate
not
he's
gonna
not
lie.
involved, it feels
he-
like right
Brandon,
How can he-
Brandon, I'm not gonna. They're not even using KD, right? KD sometimes standing at half court
Because-
watching D-Book.
That's what I'm saying. You're not understanding. The mere presence of KD on the court makes Devin Booker a better player. It's
Well, he was
with
getting
any
double
great
teamed
player
last game.
playing with any great player,
Brandon.
especially KD, because KD fits so perfectly with basically any team. You just plug him in. He's like one of the most plug-in superstars you could find because his game just fits with anybody.
Right.
The mere presence makes Devin Booker a better. But how are you? What I don't.
I'm going to make a film breakdown and show you the kind of the clips I'm talking about where, look, they'll be just fronting KD in the post 9 with like Terrence Mann, and then they're double teaming Devin Booker on ball screens, and he's making the right play like 9 times out of 10. He's getting downhill, blowing. He's breezing. I mean, the finishing from him too has been phenomenal. The up and unders, the touch, his acceleration. There's just a fluidity to his game when he's on. And I feel like for Denver right now, this is the ultimate test. If the Nuggets win the series, they're going to the finals. I think because they get the Warriors in the next round, so we'll see. But the reality, though, is there isn't a worse matchup for the Nuggets than D-Book and also KD. But there's a flip side to this. When these two teams played in 2021, the Nuggets starting lineup was Facu Campazzo, Austin Rivers, Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon, and Michael Porter Jr. Will Barton wasn't healthy in that series either, and Michael Porter Jr. was not really playing well in his first playoff setting. Aaron Gordon, meanwhile, was also not. So you look at Jamal Murray coming in with KCP and Bruce Brown off the bench, and I think this is far and away the best type of Nugget team the Suns will have to face. They have a little bit more depth, they have a lot more continuity, and to me, they have the higher ceiling raiser offensively. That being said, I'm expecting this to go all the way to 6 or 7 for the number one reason being Jokic defensively has been really bad. Really, really. Offensively, he's been phenomenal. Absolutely out of this world. He was playing amazing versus Rudy Gobert, who's probably the best matchup for him. I think Gobert is a better matchup than Ayton. But defensively, Nikola Jokic is not trying to protect the rim shot blocking, but he's also kind of taking on this mentality of, I'm not a shot blocker. So let me just run in front of you and kind of stay in the way and pretend I'm going to take a charge, but really not. And I think against this Phoenix team, they're too skilled offensively with their duo to just have Jokic totally let them breeze by him one-on-one. That's going to really be the deciding factor. Can Jokic and this Denver defense just defend at an adequate level? Because their offense is going to keep on coming. Or against this Phoenix offense with that duo, just the duo specifically, if they get enough support by DeAndre Ayton and Chris Paul, can they be better offensively in this matchup around 2?
I think that's one of the scariest things about this Phoenix Sun team is we haven't seen the best version of Kevin Durant yet, which is exactly why I'm saying the Phoenix Suns are going to win this series in 6. I think the Denver Nuggets, and they showed you in the second half of the season that they are a vulnerable team. They can be beaten. There's no team in the West that is, what miles better than the other. So I'm going to run with the Suns here. I won't even expand too much. I just really believe in the Slim Reaper. I think Kevin Durant, at his best, is a top 3, maybe top 2 player in basketball and probably the most unguardable person in the league. So I'm going to roll with the Suns easily. Devin Booker is rolling. I think CP is going to find himself too. He had some good scoring games too in the first round against the Clips. Granted, no PG, no Kawhi either. But I think the Suns run away with this. I think they're the best team in the West.
I got Nuggets in 7, and it's simply because DeAndre Ayton is going to get destroyed down there, and Jokic is going to have a party. You don't have the bodies to throw at Jamal Murray offensively, and vice versa. You may have Aaron Gordon and KCP to throw at Devin Booker, but that's not going to do really much because they're nowhere. They're good defenders, but they're nowhere near the position to really keep him down for too long, even if they are. And it's just schematically the way the Suns are doing it is going to be hard for the Nuggets to cover because they don't. It's not technically drop coverage, but it also is. Jokic runs a certain level of drop coverage where he plays up a little bit higher because his hands are so quick, because he has really quick hands. And the defender behind him slides so much to cover him on the back door. He's not going to be a rim protector, but he plays a certain level of drop coverage that he's trying to keep you. He's trying to force the long mid-range jumper. The problem with this Phoenix team is that you're going to get midi to death the entire game. They're shooting 50% on mid-range. They're shooting 50% on mid-range shots for a freaking reason. So schematically, that's always going to kill a lot of teams. They're going against math, and they're doing it in ways teams don't want to play defense. They don't want to have to always play up on screens and go under screens on Devin Booker, or go over them and force Jokic to come up a little bit higher. They don't want to do that. And another problem is when you go in that pick and roll, especially with KD in the corner, what are you going to do if Devin Booker is going downhill on Nikola Jokic and you have either Damon Lee, Landry Shamet, Chris Paul? KD.
No, Monty Williams doesn't like playing his best shooter, so he plays Landry Shamet, who does nothing. So it'll be Landry on the floor.
Okay, so what happens when you have a shooter in the left corner, Kevin Durant in the right corner? Now, let's say you help on that Devin Booker drive. You're now allowing either Chris Paul, who's obviously cooked, but he still can produce, or KD playing against a 4-on-3 or playing against a closeout. Like, it's just a recipe for disaster for both teams. Neither teams have the personnel to guard each other, really. But it's really going to depend on which one blinks first, really. And this is going to be a testament. This is going to be a real testament to really show either maybe what we think about KD after leaving Golden State may be true. Is Devin Booker really like that, or is Jokic really what we think he is? Is Jamal Murray back, and the Nuggets offense what it is really going to tell a story of which offense can dominate the other, because defensively they don't have the bodies or the scheme to really stop either one of each other.
That's true. Yeah, I expect this honestly to go 7. I agree. I think these two teams both lack the bench depth and power there. Denver's, you'd probably give the slight edge to, but it's not saying much. Yeah, it's going to be tough for the Denver Nuggets to guard the Phoenix Suns, Devin Booker and KD especially. Jokic better dominate Ayton from basically everybody, shitting on Ayton, saying he's soft as cotton now. He's not this guy, he's not that guy. So I expect a MVP to dominate. In terms of who do I have winning this series? Listen, the Suns are so top heavy. It kind of reminds me of the quote LeBron gave, I think in 2016 or 2017. I forgot which year it was, where he basically said, we're top heavy as you know what. That's what the Suns kind of remind me of. They have the top 10 end talent, but they lack the depth. And it just, for me, it's so hard to see you playing a KD, a Devin Booker 40-plus minutes a night.
In the first round.
Yeah, at Chris Paul playing, I don't know how much he's playing, 33, 35 probably, maybe even more in some cases. DeAndre Ayton playing 35-plus minutes, and you know how big men can get in foul trouble real quick.
Or get hurt real bad sometimes playing that many minutes.
It's so hard for me to see this team getting overworked basically, but by necessity because they don't have the talent to take KD and Devin Booker out for a little bit and be like, all right, let's get a break, and now we can come in. So, yeah, and the coaching match was going to be interesting because Mike Malone has had his shortcomings. Monty Williams has definitely had his shortcomings. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. For right, oh God, man,
Pick Denver.
I'm gonna go Denver and 7 for right now, but it could easily flip.
Same here.
Damn, I'm alone again.
What do you
You're
have?
also picking them at 6.
I just wouldn't be. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if you're right either. It's just the entire. It's just right now. It just fully depends on how. It just fully depends on either what Ayton can actually do to slow down Nikola Jokic, if anything at all, and how the Nuggets are going to find a way to defend those Devin Booker pick and rolls. Because if Devin Booker's running pick and roll, Kevin Durant's attacking 3-on-2. DeAndre Ayton is getting easy shots in the paint because you have to rotate constantly, and he's just getting dunks because of the people on the court. But
he hasn't dunked the basketball though.
Yeah, but the problem is like Monty Williams hasn't found a real way to stagger Devin Booker and Kevin Durant's minutes. Every single time one of them is not on the court with each other, the defense hones in on one of them, and it makes it harder for everybody else because nobody else on the court can produce. Like Torrey Craig, Josh Okogie, Damon Lee, Landry Shamet, any one of those guys, they have not been playing well in that path. There's a reason why the Clippers come back constantly, is because whenever you take one of them off the floor, the other one is getting constantly hounded, and your offense doesn't flow the same way anymore. And I'm sure Denver's looking at that and realizing, like, hey, either we're tiring these boys out, or if they try to stagger these minutes to get some rest, we're every single time one of them is off the lineup, we are attacking full force every single step of the way.
Mm-hmm. J-Ray,
I see. So with this series, like you guys said, it's not like neither one of them have much of an answer for them on the defensive end. They can't guard KD. You can't guard Booker. You can't guard Jokic. Jamal Murray will show his face too. But in all honesty, I think when it comes to crunch time, I think all these games will be coming down to crunch time. I think KD and Devin Booker are going to shine, and I ultimately don't think the Nuggets will. Like I said, I think that second half Nuggets team might show up. I like the Suns, and I wouldn't be surprised if the series goes.
That's understandable.
It's close, but ends a lot sooner than people think.
Just thought
I'm going to tell you something, Justin. The best team in clutch time this year. You know who it was?
Was it the Denver?
Wasn't it us?
It was not at the Miami Heat. I'm trying
Really?
to filter out the playoffs.
Were we top 5?
Give me the playoffs right now. Okay. I'm trying to confirm.
You got
the best team in clutch time was, the 76ers won. The Miami Heat 2.
Okay.
And the Denver Nuggets 3. The Nuggets had the best clutch defense, which was a stat I found very impressive.
And you know what I say to that stat, John? I don't care, because you know what, you guys, everybody told me that the Cleveland Cavaliers, the number 1 rated team, they were going to dominate on the defensive end against the Knicks, and that didn't happen.
They did technically.
No, not technically they didn't. They're just lucky the Knicks didn't make shots. But Brandon has said it multiple times. It's a different breed of basketball when you get into the playoffs. And quite frankly, we've seen the Nuggets also let us down over and over and over again. So I wouldn't be surprised if that shows up again.
And
So-
Justin, that's why I had the Nuggets. Actually, the more I think about this Nuggets Sun series, the more comfortable I get in Denver winning. This is coming from a Denver fan, but there's 3 reasons why. Number one, kind of like that Cavalier Knicks series. Look, the Suns have 0 depth and no continuity. Monty Williams still doesn't know who he wants to trot out there. But with Denver, they have their bench figured out. The lineup is Jamal Murray, KCP, or Bruce Brown. And then you have Christian Brown, Jeff Green, and Aaron Gordon. That lineup won the non-Jokic minutes against Minnesota. But there's another element of it too. The Suns are a terrible rebounding team. Nikola Jokic just had 9 of those boys in Game 5 versus Towns and Gobert. He's an elite offensive rebounder. So the Nuggets, even when they're missing shots, are going to get a lot of second chance opportunities. The Suns aren't. But the third element for Phoenix is Devin Booker playing out of his mind right now? Hell yeah. Does he scare the shit out of me? Hell yeah. Does Kevin Durant? Oh, he scares me too. But when we look at the other guys, the only other shooter the Suns have is Torrey Craig. Do I think Torrey Craig's going to shoot 55% from 3 again? Hell no. You look at the rest of those shooters. Chris Paul is 3 of 6 in games 5 and 6, but in game 3, he shot 1 of 8 from 3, and they're leaving him wide open. If the if the Nuggets are leaving CP wide open and he's not killing them on those spot up looks, now all of a sudden you can double team Kevin Durant and Devin Booker more so, who is the initiator. And if that's the case, and the guys around them aren't making shots, well, then that Denver defense will be adequate. And that
This series is all about the others.
that offense is going to keep on coming. And I think this, much like that Cavs Knicks series, is going to highlight continuity matters. Offensive rebounding definitely matters. And you know what I also think matters? Pace. And the Suns just don't have the depth to have pace when Katie and Devin Booker are playing 45 minutes. And the closing minutes, Justin, those 2 guys' legs are going to be dead after a certain point. They're playing that much. And what do they rely on? That mid-range shot making. The best way to rely on that is soft, nice, fresh legs. And they're not going to have that in this matchup.
Let me speak on that exactly point right there, and then we can move on. Because I just remembered this point too. That's so key to the series. Denver's the home team. They play in Denver, Colorado. What do we know about Denver, Colorado? Mile High City, right?
Yep.
That altitude is different.
Stop with
No. Stop. Okay? It is a real thing. It is. I can bring up countless.
I know it's a real thing.
That's what I'm saying. So this again, with the minutes they're playing heavy too, and you're going to be in Denver. If it goes 7, you have to go back to Denver in game 7, and you played this entire series hard fought. Maybe a game goes to overtime, and you still in that altitude, you're trying to catch your breath. It's going to be tough, man. That's all I'm saying. That's another thing to really keep an eye on in this series.
One more thing. If there's one stat, Justin, that you will like, it's that Kevin Durant in his last 20 games versus Denver 16-4. So this is going to be an interesting matchup where, look, the Suns, they have probably the best, them and the Warriors are the 2 best matchups to throw in Denver. But I think on the margins, where the Nuggets did play well in games 1 through 5 versus the T-Wolves, we're going to see that same thing apply in round 2. So with all that out of the way.
I was about to say, this series is just about the others. It's just going to depend on who you trust. Jamal Murray and Jokic versus KD, D-Book. Jamal Murray, again, is showing why he's an A-tier playoff performer all over again, even after coming off an ACL injury.
Right.
Like, again, it just depends on, is Michael Porter Jr., KCP, and Bruce Brown going to be consistent, or can DeAndre Ayton, CP3, and whoever that other guy is, whether it's Torrey Craig or Josh Okogie, can match up that way? Because I think the top 2 on each side probably going to cancel each other out in a sense.
I like that a lot. With all that out of the way, Romain, I want to thank you for jumping in, because yesterday you were live with me at 2 a.m. on my own YouTube channel. We appreciate it. You're gonna be like, I forget. It's not affiliate. That's not the right description. I guess it would be. It starts with a C. The word I'm looking for. JJ already used it one time on his correspondent. Thank you. God damn it! Took me 2 hours. Remember that shit. You're a correspondent of our show at this point for NBA talk, and especially Miami Heat. I want to thank you for jumping on. We're going to talk about the NFL draft. If you want to stick around, you can. If you want to dip, you can head out right now. Sounds good. Thank you for jumping on. Let the people know where they can
Appreciate
find
you,
you.
Al.
No problem. FOB on YouTube. Getting the breakdown out today. I'm still waiting on some of these videos to download because I'm working on some receipts right now. But FOB on YouTube, FOB__9 on Twitter. Don't really use any other social media like that. But yeah, those are the two places you can find me. We're gonna be covering these playoffs heavy, especially with the Heat the way they are. We have a couple of videos on the Nuggets series coming out. Probably have some talk about what the Clippers have to do now, what the Timberwolves have to do now. There's a lot going on. Offseason is gonna be great. Playoffs gonna be great. Do check it out.
Appreciate you. Go check
No
out
problem.
FLB. Links are in the description. Take it live. So we now have the NFL draft today. I kind of forgot we had the draft because today is a day where we're just thinking about last night's insane playoff performances. Here's the thing. The storyline of this NFL draft has constantly pivoted from CJ Stroud QB1. Is it Bryce Young? Now all of a sudden there's some reports that Will Levis is going number 2 overall, but even his agency, CIA, they deny that. Like he's not going number 2 overall to the Texans or any team that trades up. Quite clearly, there is a $1 million question here. Who is QB1 in this draft class? So we're going to put a fun little spin on it. We're going to kind of rank quarterbacks and then predict who's going to go first and where they're going to go, specifically the quarterback position. We're a little bit late to a mock draft type of edition. We also haven't done that deep of scouting on the defensive side of the ball, myself included. And so we're going to talk about these quarterbacks. I'm excited, man. I don't want to bash them as I kind of did a couple of weeks ago to CJ because they're all pretty good. In my eyes, I've kind of warmed up to this quarterback class over the last 2 weeks, watching a little bit more film. And I think this is the best day of the year almost for football fans. It's kind of like an NBA free agency. It's the most exciting time. It gives every NFL fan hope, even if you're a Cleveland Brown fan 7 years ago. I mean, it's truly a magical moment.
I mean, it is. For even Patriots fans, for every year we get excited, even though it's usually going to be a disappointment for us because Bill's going to make a move that we completely don't know why he made or even knew it was a possibility. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Draft day.
Draft day is always cool because it just feels like we're getting closer and closer to football season, even though we're still pretty far away from it. And we all know we're all itching for September to come just to see all these storylines finally come to fruition.
Yep. So let's talk about it.
How many quarterbacks will be taken in the first round of this year's NFL draft? I look at this quarterback class, and to me, there are 4 first-round quarterbacks. Number 1, my QB1 this year's draft is Bryce Young. There's an intangible to him, a clutch gene, an ability to improvise and extend plays to where, yeah, you worry about the health, but you also worry about not taking the best quarterback. And when I look at CJ Stroud, he had 3 offensive linemen that are going to be drafted today and tomorrow. And beyond that, he had 5 first-round receivers. Bryce Young is not your typical Alabama quarterback. Even last year when he had Jameson Williams and John Mechie, he was working behind a bad offensive line for Alabama standards after a couple of NFL drafts, taking that talent away. He can overcome limited personnel. And I think for the Carolina Panthers to take anybody but him will be selling themselves short of the type of return they gave up for the number 1 overall pick. Number 2, I have CJ Stroud. I think he's the best pure pocket passer in this class. He can dice you up with great ball placement. It's truly some of the best I've seen in recent memory. And because of that, some people compare him to Burrow. But we haven't seen him in a muddy pocket like Joey B in the NFL. And we didn't really know coming out of LSU, okay, how great is his pocket presence really? That pocket presence Joey B has is phenomenal. I think that's a separator between him and Stroud. It's not that Stroud can't extend plays and make the most out of a dead play, but I do worry about his ability to extend drives. And I also think the transition for him to the NFL is going to be tougher because, look, his cast is going to be worse than the NFL probably. He's going to go from that Ohio State team to something of less nature. And I think he's something of less stature. And I think his role in the NFL to me is like an amazing system quarterback. He reminds me of Goff, Prescott, and that's pretty good. But ultimately, a lower ceiling than my number 3, which is Anthony Richardson. Look, Richardson only had 390 passing attempts in a couple of years as a redshirt sophomore at Florida. I think a lot of people are overlooking him because of his accuracy. But if you give him reps as a kid with sensational physical tools, and I watch more of the film, pretty impressive pocket presence, his ability to extend plays. He's not the type of running quarterback that's just going to look to evade pressure and get out the pocket when the play's dead. No, he goes through his progressions, and he also can hit deep shots. I'm sorry, but Anthony Richardson reminds me a lot of Josh Allen coming out of Wyoming. or maybe he didn't have a prestigious college career, but all of the tools are there. And from all the reports and all the reading I've done, he's a great kid that wants to learn. And if you get those two things in a quarterback, I think that's more than worthy of that crazy chance that we're trying to win Super Bowls, man. We want to get that quarterback that'll put us in a position as such. He reminds me of Cam and Josh Allen. Number 4 for me, and the last quarterback I think that is a first-round pick that I also will predict to go in the top 15 is Will Levis. Will Levis, Penn State, he transfers to Kentucky. Look, in that SEC, he had himself a pretty tough task of having no NFL talent and a pretty bad offensive line. And while playing through injuries, he gutted out his senior year there. I think he might have been a redshirt senior, but let me tell you something about this kid. He is probably the toughest quarterback in his class. He's got really good arm talent. He can throw from the pocket. He can extend plays. But the issue with him, as everybody will tell you, is his down-to-down consistency and his accuracy. He can put a ball on a silver platter, but there are a lot of plays, as we saw at the Combine, where it's like, damn, he is by far and away the most inaccurate quarterback in this class. But to me, in the same way that Anthony Richardson didn't have a great supporting cast at Florida, I think the transition for Levis to the NFL will project better than Stroud because he's already had to deal with some shit. He has already had to deal with the money pocket, playing through injuries. And that, to me, is a sign of character, a tough guy that you want as the quarterback, the guy's getting paid the most money to be in your locker room. And the more I look at his tape, he is riskier in some ways, but I also think he reminds me a little bit of Carson Wentz. And like Carson Wentz was 2 inches taller. He had a better arm. Actually, I don't know if that's true. I think their arm strength is pretty similar. I think Levis has the second best arm in this class in terms of just power. But hey, man, I think the tools that he's shown in today's NFL, well, he may have been a second rounder two decades ago. I think right now he's a top 15 pick. Not just not one I would want to take personally.
Yeah, I think there's no real arguments there with your list. For me, it's just simply like I especially Richardson and Levis. These guys just hit me as the guys that like years ago they wouldn't be first round picks.
Right.
It's just because of the need for quarterback, the need to get to going and whatever. Maybe it's not even that. I don't even know what the hell it is, but these GMs, these teams have just, I think they fall in love too hard. I think they try to see things that maybe aren't necessarily always there. Maybe they ignore things that they shouldn't be ignoring. But right now it's just the draft odds. Number 1 overall, Bryce Young is minus 5,000 to go first overall. Second is Will Levis with plus 1,200. Then CJ Stroud at plus 3,000. Now, for me, when the trade was initially made for the Panthers, right, to move up, CJ Stroud's draft odds went skyrocketed, and I thought too because of the video that was caught with McCowan saying to Stroud, maybe we'll play some more ball when you're in Carolina, and I was like, well, I mean, that seems like but it looks like maybe they've fallen in love with Bryce Young. Maybe a lot of this is smokescreen, and they're going to take Will Levis. Who the hell knows? For me, I'm going to stick with Stroud because I think that's who they're going to go with. I just think, prototypical quarterback wise, he is that, like John spoke about. And for Bryce Young, listen, from all I've heard, special talent throwing the football, right? The size does scare me. It just does. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm, being an old head again, but it does. You look at it, like not everybody's going to be Russell Wilson. Right? Not everybody's going to be Drew Brees at 6 feet. Kyler Murray has done a very well job, but we've seen his body fall apart later in the season. It's hard, for Bryce Young, especially. I don't think he's as athletically gifted as a Kyler Murray. So it's going to be even a little bit more difficult. I know John likes to, give Baker some shit too, 6-foot quarterback. That has been also a problem for him a little bit of his career. So I just think CJ is the safest pick. I think John has said that in the past. The safest pick is CJ Stroud, kind of like Mac Jones a couple of years ago. The safest pick was besides Trevor Lawrence, obviously, but most ready quarterback. So I'm gonna go CJ for Carolina. Now for number 2, there's been a lot of reports. Is somebody going to move up? There's reports. There's a lot of teams that want to move up. There's reports that no team sees, these quarterbacks in such high value, so they don't want to move up. There's conflicting reports. We're going to have to wait until draft time to really see the answers to those questions. I don't know. Can the Texans afford to pass up on either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud at 2?
Bryce Young at 2, I would say it's not ideal, but there will be more CJ Strouds to come through the draft. Safe quarterback prospects with limited ceilings. And the Texans are just a bad football team that needs to hit on a draft class.
Yeah.
They're like the Jets before last season. They hit on a couple of picks, namely Dameon Pierce, Derek Stingley, Jalen Petrie. But what if you hit on one more draft class? And then next year, with that extra Browns pick you have this year, or just let alone, in a future first-round pick, then you trade up for the quarterback the way you did with Deshaun Watson in 2017. It's important to build the quality team. That way you're not putting an average quarterback prospect behind a bad offensive line. I actually think their offensive line's good at the tackle spot, but Tyus Howard and Laramie Tunsil is really underrated. But I would rather put a better quarterback prospect behind a pretty good cast than a prospect behind a bad cast.
Yeah.
I think Houston has I'd say a quality football team now. I mean, earlier when we used to talk about Houston, I had said I think they're my second pick to come out of the AFC South. I got them ranked number 2. I think that they played some good ball last year towards the end of the season, played some competitive games.
True.
They weren't spectacular, but with D'Amico Ryans now as the head coach, they got some special players coming up in there. I think they'll be good. Brendan, do you have more quarterbacks that you want to speak on before
I mean, it's yeah, I think the main question of this draft is anybody going to trade up? And the more I think about it, the more I think I don't see them, because I think I would.
Yes, a team will be trading up.
No, for a quarterback, John, unless you're already giving up on Kenny Pickett. Yeah, that's why he dropped it. For me, it's just I think I'm going into the mindset that these GMs and front offices are thinking more like me, where the quarterbacks aren't highly impressive to them. So if that's the case, I don't see a team moving up. So yeah, I could easily see Carolina taking Stroud or Young, and then Houston and Arizona not taking quarterbacks, or Houston taking a quarterback, whatever. I've said this. I think Anthony Richardson is while I wouldn't take him, you can't deny he's not a perfect fit for Indianapolis because of the new head coach and how Jalen Hurts, he was his offensive coordinator. Seattle's an interesting one. Do they take a flyer on a quarterback to maybe put behind Geno? Detroit, I think Detroit's pretty settled with Jared Goff right now, so I think that they're going to try and bolster the team and win now.
Cool corner, I think.
Yeah,
Vegas predictions.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I have a rough outline of my mock draft. My 2023 NFL mock draft, number 1 overall, I have the Carolina Panthers taking Bryce Young. It's an easy pick to me. Number 2, I have the Texans taking Will Anderson, edge rusher out of Alabama. D'Amico Ryans as an Alabama product. I think going edge here is a pretty big position to hit on. He seems like a scheme fit for Ryans, and he's got to get as much talent as possible for that defense.
Number 3 and Mario Williams,
yeah, that's a good point. I have the Arizona Cardinals trading out of this pick. The Cardinals need to upgrade this roster significantly, and there are teams like the Titans out there and a couple of others lower level that are in the market for a quarterback because Ryan Tannehill's older. There's also the Raiders. My prediction is that the Tennessee Titans are going to move up in this draft class. The way we saw, I think, back in 2016, if memory serves, maybe it's not serving, when they got Marcus Mariota in the top 2, I think the Tennessee Titans are going to move up and take Anthony Richardson a year after selecting Malik Willis in the 3rd round on day 2. I'm a true believer that in this offense with Mike Vrabel, how they want to run the football, Anthony Richardson would be such a drastic floor raiser. And I think long-term, he could be a top 10 quarterback. The Titans limited. They needed a top 10 quarterback for years. Number 4, I have the Indianapolis Colts taking CJ Stroud. He's the safest quarterback in this class and a great runway for this Colts team to get back on track to the playoffs. Number 5 overall, the Seahawks, thankfully, after the Russell Wilson trade, have options here. You can go quarterback, but I think they're going to take the best player on the board. I hate to do this because I wanted the Bears to get Jalen Carter, but Jalen Carter fell out the top 3 due to off-the-field concerns. He'll be going to Seattle. They're a team that last year hit on the draft big time. They're going to hit on it again this year. At number 6 overall, I have the Detroit Lions taking the best cornerback in this class, Devon Witherspoon, out of Illinois. He's 180 pounds, but he hits as hard as any DB in this class. And this is a stacked defensive back class. I'm telling you guys right now, the same way last year we had 2 or 3 studs, and the same way in 2021, between Joey Porter, Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon, and this kid out of Illinois, there are some special cornerbacks that I think will be taking the top 20. There's also one, Deontay Banks, as well, who's really rising up the draft radar recently. At number 7, I have the Las Vegas Raiders taking Peter Skoronski. He's an offensive tackle that's undersized. I think at around 6'3". Maybe I'm wrong there. But he can play all 5 positions. They've got the tackle spots. Colton Miller, I think they can have a solid offensive line. I took Dylan Parham recently. But if you get a swing man that can play almost 4 or 5 positions in the line, I think that'll be a huge, huge step in the right direction. The Raiders just need to take the best player on the board and to protect Jimmy G. Offensive line's going to be at the top of that list. Number 8, I have the Atlanta Falcons trading back to number 17, getting the 32nd overall pick by my Pittsburgh Steelers. And my Steelers with the 8th overall pick are taking Paris Johnson, offensive tackle, left tackle. He's going to be the last piece to put Kenny Pickett on the map. And I'm telling you right now, this is how the Steelers are making the playoffs next year. Paris Johnson. Do not sleep on my Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 9 overall, the Chicago Bears, who moved back to from number 1 all the way 8 spots back. They were eyeing up Jalen Carter, and it's a shame he is no longer on the board. And so I think to myself, they're set at DB. They're solid at wide receiver. They're not going Bijan Robinson. The offensive line could use some work. You know what? I'm going to take Tyree Wilson, edge rusher out of Auburn. He is arguably as good of a prospect as Will Anderson. The fact Wilson fell this far back is a massive, massive surprise because, dude, he is an absolute beast. I think he could have a higher ceiling than Will Anderson as an athlete. He's a tools guy, like through and through, like Trayvon Walker last year, Rosa. Look out for Tyree Wilson. And if he falls to 9, I don't think the Bears will be complaining. I just think they want that defensive tackle prospect that's probably the best since Aaron Donald. Now there's Quentin Williams. He's one of the best defensive tackle prospects we've seen last decade, though. So maybe the Seahawks, I think there's one thing I revised. Maybe the Seahawks do go edge here with Wilson, and then Carter goes to 9, but those 2 teams are going defense. And for the last pick of my mock draft, I've been rambling for a while now. I have the Philadelphia Eagles taking Christian Gonzalez, cornerback out of Oregon. They get younger there, and that would be a great addition to that young secondary.
That's a good shout. Do you want to say something, Justin?
No, I was going to talk about my quarterbacks, but if you got a comment on his,
No. Go ahead.
Jay, that's on me, by the way. I didn't let you talk about your quarterbacks before, bro.
No, you're good, bro. You're good. I didn't know you had your whole mock draft figured out. Now I'm going to be keeping tabs of that for tonight. Would you have Levis on that?
I had Levis. That's a good question.
Didn't have him going top 10.
I'm still not sold on my last. No, I had Levis in my top 4. My pick was Anthony Richardson 3rd. So yeah. I'm still not sold on what team I want Levis to go to, but I'm eyeing him up for the Texans at 12. I'm considering.
Yeah, I mean, if he drops,
I'm revising it down. I'm going to tweet in a little bit.
If he drops to 12, I would think the Texans are going to
take him up. Yeah. So for me, I've talked not bad, but about Anthony Richardson. I just found that he was too much of a wild card. As any team that drafts him, it's going to be a project. But there's no secret that his ceiling is through the roof if you get him in the right system. So I'll be honest with you. While I don't believe he goes number 1 overall, I think that's Bryce Young for the taking. I think he's the 2nd quarterback off the board. I think whatever team goes after him, I am in love with your matching of him going to Tennessee. Him, Derrick Henry, Mike Vrabel, that is absolutely terrifying. They'll be running through people's faces in December and January for years to come, and I love that. I think the AFC South, this is a big, big year for the AFC South. A lot of these teams looking for quarterbacks need to hit on one immediately. I think Bryce Young's going number 1. I would take I don't think A. Rich is going to go number 2 to Houston. So I'm going to roll with you. I think he gets taken a little later, but he's my second quarterback off the board. CJ Stroud said something that bothered me the other day when he said, you have to be smart to play at Ohio State, to be the quarterback at Ohio State. And it kind of got me a little annoyed because I'm just saying, dude, what great quarterbacks have came out of Ohio State that you think you're going to be that guy? You know, Justin Fields hasn't really proven anything. While as spectacular and talented as he is, and I think he could probably take that next step in Chicago, there's still skepticism on what he can be. So I'm not a fan of CJ Stroud. If you're not going to Carolina, I don't know what system he's going to thrive in. So I'm going to say he's our third quarterback off the board, but I don't know how spectacular this kid's going to be. Will Levis, I'm not buying too much stock into him. Like Brandon said, there's a lot of quarterbacks in this draft that years ago we're probably not even looking at as first rounders. I think with social media, we boost all these guys up, and they prop them up to think that every single QB taken in the first round is going to hit. That's not how it works. We've seen that with Sam Darnold. We've seen that with Zach Wilson, Josh Rosen. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Somebody isn't going to hit. Multiple people may not hit. All 4 of these guys can be busts.
Not every class can be 2020.
Exactly. Not every class is going to be that spectacular. So I'll go A. Rich as my second best quarterback. CJ Stroud going third, and I will Levis be in the fourth one. I see 4 quarterbacks going off the board in the first round. Do I know where? No idea. I could see Miami swooping in and drafting a quarterback at some point with questions on Tua.
That's not the possibility. There's also one quarterback. No, you got
Hendon Hooker.
Hendon Hooker, yes, he has a monster arm and he can run too. But when I watched that Tennessee offense, like he didn't create out of structure, and that's one thing to look at. That's why I like Dorian Thompson-Robinson out of UCLA, because he's got an arm. He was also in a UCLA offense that he was like a super senior this year, but he also was held back by their play calling, and he had a tougher job with not much NFL talent, excluding his running back and Zach Charbonnet. Charbonnet, by the way, is going to be a good back. I think he'll be a lot like, he might be a Patriot, honestly. He's a lot like Damian Harris or James Conner, but that UCLA team had themselves a really talented quarterback in Dorian Thompson-Robinson. It's DTR the third. That's his nickname. I think he's going to go on day 2 to a team like the Lions or the Seahawks, maybe even the Texans, where, all right, much like a Levis, he has tools and athleticism. He's also a quarterback that's raw and can sit a year. It's kind of like, Malik Willis last year, but he's more NFL ready to me. So I think that would be my 5th quarterback, honestly. And then number 6 for me would be Hooker. Hooker's older. He's coming off 20 ACL too. But really what it comes down to is that I don't think Hooker can really create plays out of structure. And I don't think there's that comfort level to his game. And I think he's also going to have a big adjustment to the NFL too, because he had some real talent at wide receiver at Tennessee.
Yeah. I'm just so not high on this quarterback class. It's just hearing 4 quarterbacks going and 2 are such major question marks on them, and it's just like, wow. And then possibly a 5th quarterback. Like I'm looking at Mel Kiper's draft. He has Hendon Hooker going 31st to the Rams. So that's interesting.
Give him that 5th-year option.
Yeah, listen, tonight's gonna be very interesting. I think it's gonna be very, very telling early if there's no trades being made, like where the quarterbacks are gonna end up. Because if nobody's trading up to get a quarterback, it's gonna be telling that maybe a lot of these reports were a lot of smoke screens and weren't true.
Yeah.
One thing is I'm looking at Kiper's draft too. He doesn't have, his first receiver off the board is 21st to the Chargers and Zay Flowers, which is very interesting to me.
That's wild. If Zay Flowers is at 14, the Patriots are taking him. Like that
he
is
has him
100% certain.
Yeah, he has him taking Nolan Smith out of Georgia.
The Pats?
Yeah.
He's also a freak athlete.
It's just that's a Patriots move. Like he's thinking more like you're thinking like, we need a receiver, right? Mel is probably done that. He's doing this so long. He's like, all right, let me try and think like Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick would make a move that nobody would be expecting. But he says this is gain traction too, not just Kiper. Bijan Robinson at 10 to the Eagles. because of they're not
They
much.
have the luxury.
Exactly. They have everything. Having number 10 and being in the Super Bowl, that don't happen. That doesn't happen often. So when you do, and your only weakness really is running back, I don't think any of us would be, advocating taking a running back that high. But when you have that luxury, like Justin said, the Eagles do, you can afford to take Bijan Robinson at 10.
Yeah.
Here's my one drawback. I think Bijan Robinson's going to be a Falcon. You want to know why? The 10th overall pick gets paid $3.5 million. If I'm an NFL team taking a running back, the issue, and a guy, Brett Coleman, a phenomenal NFL YouTuber, talked about this. It's not drafting the running back as much as it is because you can get 5 years out of them, as it is giving them the second contract. And if I'm a team like the Eagles, I had the 30th overall pick. I can take a really good running back, and maybe I can even move up to 20 and take Bijan there, where I'm paying him much less money. And he's also going to be a player that, hey, look, we're not investing a top 10 pick into when we can get a blue chip prospect at corner. If we can get ourselves a top 5 corner or a top 5 running back in the NFL, I'm taking the cornerback. And then to me, if I'm the Falcons in this draft, if I move from 8 to 17 with the Steelers, I also get the first pick of the second rounds. That's where I can take the running back while getting future assets. And I feel much better about taking the running back around 1 because Bijan's great. I still don't know if it's worth the value in taking the guy in the top 10.
No,
And that's understandable. I mean, look, Saquon was drafted in the top 5, and then there we go, Nick Chubb later in the round. That's you could find somebody. You could find a real number 1 at any moment.
Yep. I'm seeing reports come out now. Arizona Cardinals are currently mulling trade offers from multiple teams interested in moving to number 3. You got Titans eyeing CJ Stroud at 3. Texans aren't ruling out CJ Stroud. Listen, there's going to be a lot of reports for the next draft starts at 8:30, maybe 9:00. I forget exactly when. Yeah, ESP Eastern Standard Time, I should say. There's going to be a lot of reports coming out in the next 8 to 7 to 9 hours or whatever. So
I'm so thrilled.
But so John has his Steelers moving up 8, right?
Yep.
Now I'm not much into the college football scene, so I'm going to leave it up to Justin. Justin, what do the New England Patriots do at pick 14?
It's tough for me, kind of like what Todd McShay did. Just think like Bill Belichick and go O-line, which I can see that actually happening. But it's very tough for me to say if Zay Flowers is on the board, us not go after him and get him. If D-Hop's off the table, I heard rumors that a D-Hop trade can be made before this draft to the Chiefs or one of the other teams that I saw that were rumored. I can see, I think Zay Flowers, if he's on the board at 14, he's going to be a New England Patriot.
Yeah, there's a lot of reports that Hopkins is likely to be traded today. Probably wait until draft time to do it. And, the 2 teams that I guess he wants to go to are Buffalo and Kansas City. So it's going to be hella interesting. John, do you have did you get up to the Patriots in your mock draft? Do you have?
Yeah, I had them taking Jordan Addison. So with the 11th pick with the Cardinals, I'm still mulling offensive tackles. 12, I had the Texans. That's the other pick. I'm not sure yet. But 13, I have the first receiver being Jackson Smith and Jigma, best slot receiver, highest floor. 14 is definitely a Zay for me. And that's where we get to 15 with the Jets. They'll take an offensive tackle. My other hot take is that I think the Buccaneers, they're a sleeper to move up at 19. If they want a quarterback, I think they might try to get Will Levis here. And I'm not, I wasn't that high on Kyle Trask. I'm also not high on Levis. But look, man, if they don't view Baker as that guy long term, they're going to explore the possibility of moving up. I think the smartest thing, though, for them would be getting a tackle to pair alongside their new left tackle, the one they took in Tristan Wirfs a couple of years ago, who's now taking Donovan Smith's role after letting him go. So if I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I would go tackle. I think they might go quarterback here, though.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if Kuiper is right that a receiver won't be taken until the 21st overall pick, I have a strong suspicion that teams are going to be calling the teams in the teens saying, I want to, like the Giants saying, all right, nobody wants to take Jackson Smith. Nobody wants to take Zay Flowers. I'll move up. I'll move up. And all like the Chargers, that having Zay Flowers on the Chargers, I mean, he brings that speed that team is lacking right now. So it's, oh man, it'll be interesting, man. Can't wait.
It's going to be fun.
With all that being said, I'll wrap up episode number 97 of the Wise Guys podcast. If you enjoyed and you want to see more content like this, be sure to like and follow for more. But at the same time, if you'd like to even go out your way to check out our Patreon page, feel free to do so. The link is in the description. My plan for the Patreon is to even do maybe a short live episode as well. Give some people premium content and also answer questions. Have it be a place where we can do maybe fantasy leagues. We can also give shout outs every single video, answer questions, do Q&As, but I also want to incorporate fans into the show. And by doing that, they'll be able to monetarily support us so we can continue recording, continue doing this long term. And if it don't make money, it don't make sense. But we're growing. I'm having fun with it. And most importantly, I'm excited to talk about this NFL draft. This NFL offseason has been a lot of fun. And I'm pretty ecstatic right now, man. Just
I'm
excited for the draft to just finally get underway, man.
Yeah,
Yep.
the NFL season, like this is truly like the NFL season is like kicking off today, so it's going to be very exciting, and we're right in the thick of things of the NBA playoffs. Listen, the first round is great, but we all know the best matchups are usually second, third, and then obviously NBA finals. So it's going to be just even better. I can't wait. We got Suns, Nuggets. We got possibly on the horizon Warriors, Lakers. We got Miami Heat taking on Justin's New York Knicks. Who would have called that we would be seeing each other in the second round of the playoffs? And then we got the Sixers, and hopefully Boston can take care of goddamn business of Atlanta tonight. And we have Boston and Philly. So great second round matchups. I can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying sports right now. My Yankees are playing, even though they piss me off every other day. At least I got the Knicks. The Knicks, Pirates are killing it. Your team, but the Knicks are doing their thing. You know, going into the season, I had them as a fringe playoff team, and to see them right now in the second round, potentially contending to make it to the conference final, something I've never seen in my life. I'm just on cloud nine. I couldn't be happier. Looking forward to Sunday, B-Cap.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And as always, till next time.
Stay classy, y'all.
Yeah.